What's good, all? Good to see everybody. Hey, number one Marvel fan. I don't know if you're still here. I saw you leave a message more than an hour ago. I was gonna reply to you. Then I thought, usually when you leave messages that early, you're like a hit and run. You drop them and leave. So I figured, okay, I'll wait. I won't wait till 8 o'clock and see if you're still around. But good to see you, sir. And no, Easter, you got no packages. But packages, do you guys get packages on Sundays in the United States? Because I know that you get Saturday delivery, but I didn't think you guys got Sunday delivery. But anyways, yeah, no, either way, you ain't getting any packages today. So there you have it. Comic Art Boston, have something on this evening, but we'll try to drop by later. No problem as always. Fred has a very wide and deep collection. He does. Hugely impressive. And dare I say that we are, in that sense, kindred spirits of sorts. Well, wonderful. That's excellent. Yeah, Fred's got a great collection. And yeah, hopefully you can make it back. But if you can't, as I always say, no worries. Any effort is appreciated. So thank you. And by the way, happy Easter, everybody, to those who celebrate it. And Mr. Easy-Go-Lucky, what is up, sir? Happy Easter to you. Plans with the family tonight. I expect it. Have a great show and hit the thumbs up. Thanks very much, my friend. I appreciate it. And enjoy your time with the family. Thank you so much. Mr. Red Jack. No longer the first guy to come into the chat anymore, Mr. Red Jack. People are beating you from now, for the last several weeks. But that's okay. I appreciate it. I hope that you are here to hang out and not just saying hello. Who else do we got here? CJ, what is up, sir? Evening to you. Hey, Dino. Good to see you, my friend. And who else? Hello. To my wife and daughter. Yes, I think they may be watching right now. So thank you, CJ. Good evening to you, Rick. Good to see you. Aloha, Carl, all the way in Hawaii. Thank you for dropping in as always. Always appreciate you. It's a me, Marcus. Okay, not quite sure what that's a reference to. It's a me, Marcus. But hey, Marcus, what's up, dude? Hello to you, Ian. Hey, Ian, no Easter bunny, rabbit, chocolate, chasing, hunting things with the kids tonight, this afternoon, I guess, for you. Well, I hope you can stick around, but if whatever, if you gotta go, you gotta go, obviously. But either way, good to see you. David, g'day, mate. Good to see you all the way from Oz, as always. Thank you so much. Hey, Jason Ladwig in Michigan. Good to see you, sir. I'm wondering, I didn't get a chance to check it out, but I'm wondering if in Michigan, if you guys got any of that shit weather that we got this past week. Let me know. I'm curious. Yeah, happy Easter to you as well and everybody else. Rick, thank you. Sometimes rare, though, in my house. Okay. No worries. That's good. I'm happy. That means if it's rare in your house, then that means I might get to have you tonight. So that's cool. And there you go. Happy wishes from my wife. Hart, what's up? Haven't seen you in a little bit. What's up, Crazy Collector? Good to see you, dude. Hope you can hang out a little bit anyways. And happy Easter to you. Hey, what's up, Tariq? Good to see you too, sir. Hey, number one Marvel fan. So you are here. Happy the show's on. Been a boring Easter. Oh, excellent. I'm happy you're here to join in. That's cool, man. And oh my God, Arwen, you haven't been by in a while. Wow. Okay, good. Now go do your homework or go to sleep, or I don't know. Do what you got to do. Let's see who else is there. Shaggy Wong. Been a while from Niagara Falls. Look at that. Long time since I've seen Shaggy Wong. Wow. Good to see you, Shaggy Wong. And Mark Vega. What's up, sir? Popping in for a minute. No worries. Glad you could and at least took the time to say hello. Happy Easter to you if you guys are celebrating it. Appreciate it. He's a spicy meatball. What's up, Mikhail? And the Mario Brothers movie. Okay. Oh, there we go. Now we got Mario Brothers. There we go. Now he's revealing. All is revealed. And is he saying he's mean, Marcus? No. Mario Brothers movie. Yes, exactly. Everybody, you guys always get it way before me, and then you guys have. But that's why I rely on you guys to explain everything to me. So that's cool. So you were supposed to get 5 to 7 inches of snow and you got none? Wow. And it went north. Well, good. You'd be happy about that kind of stuff, you know? Thank you, sir. Really appreciate you, man. And hope you're hanging. Hope you're hanging at least for a bit. What's up, Scotty? Good to see you too, sir. And yeah, so you were thinking of building an ark with all the trees. Wow. So even you guys had a bunch of trees come down too, huh? Between the wind and the rain. Yeah, it was nuts. Cool. I got something to show you. I got something to show all of you. And then Jason, you can tell me after I show you what I'm going to show you. You can tell me if it was worse over your over in your parts, you know. Excellent. I appreciate that. Glad to hear that, Hart. That's awesome. I'm kidding, honey. I love you. You know that. You can stick around for a little while. It's still early, and I know you have no school tomorrow, so that's cool. There's exhibiting excellent parenting skills. Do what you got to do. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. I take pride in that. Absolutely. Niagara Falls. Slowly, I turn step by step, inch by inch. And we got Maki Poo Poo. What's up, sir? Good to see you, my friend. I will be seeing you very soon. I'm looking forward to that as well. All right, everybody, let me say hello. I've already said hello backstage, but let you guys say hello to my friend and yours, Fred Chamberlain. Let's get him into the studio here before we waste any time. What is up, Fred?
Hey, everybody. How are you? What's up, Rubén?
Good to see you, man. Thanks for doing this, first of all. Always got to say thank you. I appreciate it. I know a lot of
to finally have a lengthy conversation with you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And like I told you, privately, it's a hangout, and you're gonna see quickly it's gonna turn into like multiple conversations with all of us, not just me, So
okay, great.
yeah, and that's what's fun about it. And here we go. Look at this. Here we go. Let me pop a few of these. Yo, Fred. Hi, Fred. Hey, Fred. Hey, Fred. Great Calf Gallery. Welcome. Look at the great welcomes. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
that's very, very nice, and the nice alohas. Very, very awesome. Yeah. So what's up with you, man? Like how was this past week affecting you in PA at all with the crazy weather? Or did you guys avoid all that?
We hit 70 midweek. So
Jesus.
I'm probably not the guy you want to talk to as
no.
Storm. We have a history there, but currently, no, it's significantly warmer.
Okay. Are you in the 70s now?
No, today was 58, I believe.
Okay, so tell me something, because again, I'm used to still being Canadian. I'm used to the Celsius measurements, right? Not Fahrenheit so much. So in the winter, what is for the average person, the average household, in the winter in America? What is the average comfortable temperature that you keep your house at? That most people would keep the house at.
I think most people do it about 70.
Okay.
70-ish.
Okay.
This year, I wanted to challenge myself a little bit. I did 66, and it was cool. But I think most people do 70, 72.
Okay. So that's nice. I kind of thought it would be maybe in the 70s. Okay, sounds good. Tariq is saying, good to meet you, Fred.
Thank you.
Here's a few others. Hello, Fred and Rubén. Caesar, what's up? Back from the land of the rising sun, baby. Good to see you back. I hope you had a great time there, man. Good to see you, man. And TJ says, hey, it's Fred. Hey, Mark, what's up, sir? Good to see you. Appreciate you dropping in as always. And 49, and damn windy here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. 49, wow. Well, the reason I ask, Fred, is because so if I were to say, so as some of you guys may know, some of you may not, we had what we call an ice storm pass through here in Montreal, where I live, on Wednesday, early afternoon. I believe it was 12 o'clock East Coast. 2 o'clock in the afternoon East Coast, and it had been freezing rain had been falling for hours, and all of a sudden at 2 o'clock the power just goes out, and I looked outside and I saw no lights, no nothing. I saw the power was off in the entire area, and it lasted for 48 hours. by the second day, so the second 24-hour period, when I woke up on Friday morning, let's put it that way. When I woke up on Friday, the temperature was 54 in the house. So if I say that, does that sound like your house would be kind of like an ice bucket? Would you?
It would be cold. Yeah, it'd be cold.
Okay. Yeah, because it was around that. Yeah, I did the calculation, and it's about, it was like 13 degrees Celsius, and I believe that's around 54 Fahrenheit. So
throw on a sweater or a jacket. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously we had to keep bundling, and there's no choice. What are you gonna do,
And you were out for a few days, right?
Say it again.
You were out of electricity.
48 hours. 48. Yeah, but remember, so it's 48 hours. But
Is
then
that different in Canada, 48 hours if you convert it to US?
we got the same 48 you do. Okay. Don't worry about that. But it's Jason. So that's okay. Chilly. I'll tell you something. It didn't feel chilly. Like, to me, it felt more than chilly when I got out of the bed, man. The air temperature in the house was like cold. Yeah, like that's nowhere near normal for us, inside the house. So so that's what I kind of thought. Number one Marvel fan, always 71 in your house. I was thinking low 70s for the average person. So, Comic Art Channel. What's up, Jason? Last week's guest. We had a great show. Everybody who didn't catch it. It was a lot of fun. Big difference between 54 and 50. Oh, so even 54 and 58, you guys feel a big difference? Really? Wouldn't that still be cold and, a little bit less cold? I don't know.
It's cool.
Okay. I don't know. For house temperature in the tail end of winter, I don't know. I'm telling you, it felt really cold. And we're up north in Montreal in Canada, so for us to say it was cold, it was cold. Right. Not for me, not that I noticed or remember, but anyways, the last thing on my mind was shrinkage, Carl, but thank you. Good to see where your mind's at, though. 54 in Canada is just barely hockey temperature. Thank you. That's awesome. Burn your comics to stay warm like hoarders hide. Exactly. If I had comics to burn, I might have had to do that. The only thing is we don't have a fireplace, so then we would have, the whole house would go up in flames. So we couldn't do that. David, you love this weather. We're giving you a weather. Exactly. You don't have to. You don't have to tune in to the actual Weather Channel anymore. And listen, you're in the land of Oz, so I don't even want to talk about what temperature you're probably experiencing. It's probably like hotter than hell where you are right now. So we won't even talk about that. Rick, Miles Finch, temperature 71 degrees exactly. Nice. Burn the comics and drink the booze. The booze, sometimes the booze is all you need, and then you'll be feeling, it's not really hot, but you think it is, So that's the nice thing. But so guys, I just wanted to quickly show you, just for the, I thought it might be interesting for those of you who don't live, in sort of climates where it gets very cold. So, the West Coasters among you, down south, whatnot. I just want to show you a few pictures of what my general area looked like, so you get an idea of what happens when freezing rain lands on trees and the temperature is right below the freezing mark so that it doesn't melt and it just stays and coats the trees. And with a little bit of wind, this is the kind of stuff that can happen. Here, check this out. So I'm going to show you, I got a series of 7 pictures. Check this out, guys. So this is the first one. This is when you step out of my house. I'm looking up. I got 2 trees right on the property, right in front. And I'm looking up into the sky at the top of the trees. Check this out. Okay. So as you can see, there's right in the middle, there's like the branch that splits up towards the sky into 2, right? That cracked off. And then to the left of that, you see that other one that's jutting up into the sky that's also kind of cracked off, right? So those 3 pieces ended up down below, right in front. So right in front, you see the 2 big pieces right there. The one in the street, the one that you see right beyond the sidewalk, that's just an extra one that came from the tree. But in the top right corner of the picture, you see the other big one. That was the 3rd one that you saw from up top there that landed on the other property, our next door neighbors. And so for those of you who know that the regulars among you, of course, you know that to the left of me, so when you go down those stairs and you turn to the left, we have a little park with a little league baseball field. And that's where I go out with a friend or two in the summer and spring. And, you know, the good weather months, we just go out there and chat and shoot the shit about comics, comic art, and all that stuff. So this is what happens when you go in that direction to the left, right? So we go here, you go into the park, and in that green grass area where you see between the two big trees here, that's generally where we typically sit. We pull up our lawn chairs and we sit and chat. So I just wanted to show you, check out that monster tree there that is obviously fallen. And those wooden boards you see on the left-hand side of the picture, that's a hockey rink. That's what the city puts up in every big park we have every winter for people who want to play hockey. And yeah, so it just that whole thing. Not only did it collapse, but check it out. Here we are. The next picture is us stepping beyond these two trees, walking up to where the snow begins. Right, so you get a better view of what happens there, and so that's pretty crazy. And if you look to the left of the picture, you see a smaller tree collapsed and fell over the boards into the rink. So that's pretty crazy. And then this next picture is the view to the far right of what you're looking at now. So the big collapsed tree, it actually got uprooted. So I wanted to get close up and show you that's what happens there. So check that out. So completely uprooted. And yeah, that's all because of the weight of the ice on the branches combined with a little bit of wind. And then the last two pictures, we had gone out looking for places to eat because obviously we couldn't cook. We didn't have really anything. We didn't really have any emergency food. So we went out looking for restaurants that still had electricity. And just here in the neighborhood, about 3 blocks away, check that one out. And the city had started to rope off certain streets just because, you know, obviously it's dangerous when these trees are down like that. They take down power lines and whatnot. And so they resorted to not just putting tape up, but they started putting like recycling bins and whatnot out there. And then here's another one. Trying to make our way home. Again, this is like 3 blocks away from home. And this thing's just hanging off. It's standing that way upside down because it's basically caught on some power lines. That black car you see back there, that's an asshole. That's what you call an asshole who decided, even though the city had roped off the street so you couldn't come in by there, he decided, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna drive through the tape anyways because I'm an asshole. So yeah, so that's what's happening there. But yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff. I know I got a 19 comments here that came in. Let me just quickly check out what you guys are saying about that because, of course, I wasn't looking while I did that. Warm enough to let the tortoises go outside today. How far north have you visited, Ruben? Hey, Stanley, by the way. Really not. I haven't. Pretty much Montreal is about as far north as I hate cold, so I avoid going more north than I already am. I like to go south if possible, you know. Mon Dieu, exactly, Shaggy Wong. Exactly. Clowns to the left, jokers to the right. Sweet. Pass the Dutchie on the left-hand side. Exactly. Beauty. I love that, CJ. Thankfully, they fell away from the stairs leading to the house. Yeah, Tariq, exactly. Yeah, and there was a car had been parked there. Thankfully, nothing, you know, that didn't get hit. But I had taken the car and I moved it away down the street to somewhere where it wouldn't be below a tree or anything, just in case, you know. So Mikhail says, if you keep the heat off entirely, you can use the money saved to buy more comic art. Plus, it teaches the children resilience. I appreciate the tips. I'll think about that the next time a crazy storm comes in during the winter, you know.
Where does Mikhail live again?
He's currently down in San Diego.
Right.
So, of course, we get those comments from him, right? Those are the people who always make the wisecracks in these situations. Steelers wheel. Where are the GCA members? Who are GCA? GCA. TJ, let me know. Again, yeah.
It's a private group. It's a private art group.
Is it?
Yeah.
What does it stand?
Secret. TJ's just been removed from it.
Are you being serious?
No, he's not being removed, but it's a private group. Yeah, on Facebook.
Okay. But what does GCA stand for?
I don't
Is
know.
that private too?
I'm sure it's Global Comic Alliance.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Good group of guys.
Yes, looks like a job for this. Exactly. All the branches, we've piled them all out in the street. So tons of piles everywhere. Yeah, there's going to be a big cleanup, I guess, starting tomorrow. It'll probably take a week for everybody to do that. Jerry Rafferty, you're losing me there. CJ, Canadians need to move to California. Hey, believe me, Hart, like I've said it on this program before. I grew up wishing I could, be a California kid. Like we used to, well, I'm not going to say we, I used to dream about wishing my parents had immigrated to California instead of to Montreal, right? I'm like, oh my God, I used to look at, TV shows and movies, anything that took place in California. And I was always envious. Like, oh, wow, look at those beautiful palm trees, the sunny weather all the time. Oh yeah, for sure. To us, it was a dream. It was a dream, yeah. Good firewood, like I said earlier, though, Rick. We don't have a fireplace, so useless to us, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a big deal. Over here in Cali, it's easygoing weather. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, of course, the trade-off is you're always living under the threat of potential earthquakes. So that, I mean, you get them all the time, but like you're under the threat of the potential big ones, right? So, yeah, another Cali kid. Yeah, okay, yeah. I didn't say it was an apocalypse. I didn't say it was like whatever. I'm just saying for an area that typically doesn't get, acts of nature, acts of God, that kind of stuff. For us, it's kind of a big deal, And it looks like the tree branch is walking across the street. Yeah, that last one, exactly. It must be from Newfoundland. Who must be from Newfoundland? Can't say much about that, though. In Canada, I might get locked up. You're crazy nut. Applied the same principles in Boston. Okay. He's defending himself because now he's a San Diego kid, but he's going to bring up the Boston thing because he was from there originally before that. Okay, that's good. I'll take it. Yeah, Carl, the guy from Hawaii, got the falling coconuts for real. I know you do. Now, how much of a danger that represents, that's a whole other story that I don't think we'll talk about. But anyways, thank you guys. Thank you everybody for allowing me to do that. Let us get on with the show. Again, Fred, awesome to have you. So this is going to be fun. As you see, it's about talking about everything. It's not just about you and me. So
yeah, that musical youth reference was enough to make it worth my time.
And thank you for adding into that part of the conversation by giving us the musical act.
Big reggae fan.
Are you really?
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah. Cool. Wow. And man, that was a classic from what?
It
like
was,
81?
Yeah, it was that was a great album, actually.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Okay, so everybody, I just want to make it clear to everybody watching. And by the way, I'm so sorry. Hello to those of you watching on Rewind. I'm so sorry. I should have said that like 20 whatever minutes ago. Thank you as always to those of you who watch on Rewind. Really, really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy the show. It's going to be fun. That period in the early 80s with the whole, that when they had, I mean, it was the only hit, right? The Pass of the Duchy. But then like a year later, or maybe less than a year later, Eddie Grant with Electric Avenue. Remember all that stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Marley really, I mean, from the 60s.
And then Marley.
And he passed, really had a huge influence. But yeah, the early 80s were a great time for music. Early, mid 80s. Talking Heads, all the punk stuff, alternative music.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I wanted to tell you, everybody, is that seeing in the last few Hangout episodes, I started noticing that the show was becoming, it's like the lines were getting a little blurred between the Hangout show and the show and tell. And that's because the big difference between them, or what's supposed to make the big difference, is that the Hangout should be more about the hangout and conversation. And I don't know if you guys remember, but the regulars remember probably, like the first several episodes of Hangout, we didn't even have any art at all. It was all about letting the conversation carry the show. And then I thought, okay, I'll ask my guests to come in studio if they want to show a little bit of art. And so we started showing 6, 7 pieces. But over time, I added more and more and more. And the next thing you know, I was showing 11 pieces and then 14 pieces. And next thing you know, it's getting close to like a show and tell. So I felt like we might as well just make it a show and tell and, not a hangout. So just FYI, for those of you listening, from now on, not only for the viewers who are strictly viewers, but for those of you who hope to or ever want to come on with me and hang out in the studio, regardless of what kind of show you want to be in on. I always leave it up to you guys, of course, if you want to be in the studio with me, what kind of show we do. But from now on, with the hangout episodes, I do want to revert back to no more than around 10 pieces of art, and preferably 6, 7, 8 kind of thing. Just because, again, that's otherwise the line's blurred, like I said, and it's just, what's the point of having 2 style shows when they're both essentially the same, So that way, whoever wants to show, whatever person wants to come in with me and hang out in the studio, if they're more in the mood to show a bunch of art, okay, guaranteed we do show and tell. But if you just want to chill and just be relaxed and have fun and we talk amongst ourselves, then I'll say, okay, better, let's do a hangout better. And then it's more relaxed and chill. And, we'll still show a little bit of art, but it won't be the primary focus of the show. So just keep that in mind, everybody. And tonight it's, I believe, 10 or 11 pieces of art that we're going to show. Everything else will be shooting the breeze. So hopefully that's good. If that works with you, Fred, hopefully.
That works. Maybe we can show it, but we won't tell them anything about it. Just to differentiate.
Show them the art and just shut up after.
Right.
Just won't say nothing. Okay, everybody, look at this next piece. And then silence for like 2 minutes.
No, that'll be captivating.
Ooh, that's exciting. Especially
as opposed to our conversation, right?
Hey, the conversation's good. Believe me, these guys love the fact that we shoot the breeze about whatever and it goes off the rails. Mikhail last time was saying like, oh, it's going off the rails. And I had to remind them, like, you've been here long enough to know typically these things go off the rail. That's what the show's pretty much about, like I said in the past,
conversations.
Hey, man, we can talk about, again, we've talked about donuts. We've talked about for 10 minutes. We've talked about comic books for half an hour. We remember that time, Marcus will remember, we talked about Gary Groff and the Comics Journal and the pretentiousness of it all, or not. And we did that for 30, 40 minutes at one point, So, yeah, man, whatever it is. And look, the way I see it is all my shows really, but especially this one, are an excuse for a bunch of us, whoever wants to, just come in and hang out once a week. And that's what it really is. It's the group of us together. I want everybody to understand that it is about all of us, and that everybody who comes in to watch live, you're not just going to be here and you come here live. You make the effort to come in live, but then be expected to just sort of sit there captivated and listen and watch. Nah, man, you're coming here. You better expect to say some shit in the chat and be, expect that we're going to speak to you and we're going to interact back and forth, because it's about everybody. And that's the whole premise of the entire channel for me, So I think that makes it a lot more fun for everybody too, So, mm-hmm. and I think, like you were telling me backstage earlier that you had noticed, like, oh shit, a lot of your shows go for almost 3 hours, and it's like, yes, it's long. I never denied that it's long, but the nice thing is that in most cases, it's not until about 2 hours and 2 hours to 2 hours 15 where I start to feel some drop off happen. And that's typically because the East Coasters are deciding, okay, I gotta go and get ready for work tomorrow and all that stuff, But still, it's not that much of a drop off, and most of the people who stick around after that stick around right to the end. So to me, what it has taught me is that you wouldn't be here unless you thought this was fun, and that you were having a good time, right? I mean, sure. So even though it feels long, and I think it's longer for the people that come in on Rewind, because they know, well, okay, they go to the channel and they're like, how much was it this week? I can imagine them going, shit, another $245. I don't have time for that, But I think for those of us who are here and I can, and you can tell me after the show, Fred, but I can tell you, to a man, everybody who has been in the studio with me so far in the 9 months or so that I've been doing this has told me, wow, like the one thing I know, because I go like, so what do you think? What, any thoughts? What are your thoughts? And everybody has said, I know that we were doing it for 2.5 hours or 3 hours or whatever, but the time flies. It like everybody has said to a man is like the time it doesn't really feel like it's anywhere near that long, you know? Right. So that's the nice thing, I think, you know, that's so, you know, that's why I used to stress, like ask any of these guys in the chat. I used to stress at the beginning, you know, the first few months, like after it would hit 2 hours and I'd be like, oh God, oh yeah, okay. Oh, so should we wrap it up? Oh, I don't know. You know, I used to stress all the time because I thought, well, I was always concerned with the viewership. Oh, if we go too long and then people won't watch afterwards, right? But then after a certain amount of time, I realized, you know, for me, I do this because I think it's fun and I want to have some fun with everybody once a week, right? And the thing is that the fun part for me is the live portion. Because after the show is over, what do I care? Like the fun's over, the show's over, the live part's over, right? So what happens after that doesn't affect me. So my main concern is let's have some fun for 2-3 hours while it's live, you know? And so I figure as long as these guys that come in and hang out live want to stick around, they're my focus. They became my primary focus. And that's why I make it all about them as much as about whatever we're doing here on camera, you know, in the studio. And then, you know, anybody else who can't make it until after on Rewind, hey, it's up to you. Watch 10 minutes, you know, fast forward through it if you have to. Do whatever you got to do. Like I can't, obviously, you know, I'm not going to, you know, whatever. I appreciate everybody. Whatever time you can give me, you know, whatever you, however much or little you want to watch, perfect. But I learned to let go of that stress of, oh, it's going too long. It used to really bother me. And I just figure as long as my guest in studio can stick around and as long as everybody else wants to hang, we just keep going. And then, of course, once we reach that sort of 2:45, we're getting, you know, let's wrap it up kind of thing. You know, it's been going good. So, yeah. So hopefully, I can see everybody's captivated and just listening intently. Not a single comment in the last 2-3 minutes since I went on that little tirade. So I was gonna say we can do a little. Oh, sorry. Oh, we did get a few comments that I'm sorry. I just noticed. Marcus. Rubén, the Bay watcher, the Bay wannabeer, I guess you can say. Yes, Marcus, there you go. Yes, although in fairness, it was long before that. But believe me, once I saw California Girls video by David Lee Roth, I mean, that just, because at that point, I'm what, like 14, 15 or something. I'm just like, oh God, that epitomizes the California dream to me, you know? That's what it is. California Girls, baby, the sun and the beach. And oh my God, yeah.
So Rubén, just out of curiosity, what would you say, based on your perception of California Girls, what would be the difference between a typical California girl and a typical Montreal girl?
Oh, see, the thing is, what you have to understand about Montreal girls is that it's very much, I guess New Yorkers, out of everybody in the United States, I guess New Yorkers, I would guess, would have the most similarity and would be understanding of what I'm going to say now. It's a melting pot here. So we've historically had a lot of immigration. And like Montreal, the island itself, has approximately 80 different, what do you call it? Not, I guess, neighborhoods, but like for different cultures, different places from different parts of the world. There's like 80 different ones, you know, a real melting pot. So for me, having grown up with that, the nice thing is that I've had a lifetime of variety, you know. So for me, that's the biggest thing. It's all about variety. Like it's people from, you know, beauty from all different parts of the world. So there's something for everybody in terms of the girls in that sense, you know.
Minus the tans.
Minus the tans, exactly. Except unless the spray on tans and the tanning salon style ones, you know. But whereas California girls, I mean, I think a lot of people up north kind of view the whole California girl thing as, oh, bleached blonde for the most part, a lot of blondes. But honestly, that's the truth about society in general. Females have always, there's been an obsession with being blonde, at least going back to the 50s. I don't know when it started, dyeing hair blonde or whatever, but blondes have more fun, that whole thing. I like them from any part of the world. I have, yeah. But is there a particular reason why you asked though?
No, it just popped into my head and it seemed absurd enough for me to want to verbalize.
Oh, okay. No, that's fair enough. Just moved to Australia. You'll meet me at the airport. Believe me, if I ever decide to move to Australia, you're my first call, David, for sure. Those kids. Oh yeah, musical youth had a rough time after. Exactly, CJ. Yeah. I think one of them a few years back passed away. I don't know if drug related. I can't remember. But yeah, some of them had some bad things. Oh yeah, exactly. The UB40 Red Run. Yeah, I love remember how they had the regular version, and then they had that what do they call it? The dub version, and they had it with a little bit of they input a little bit of that reggae portion in the middle of it or whatever. Mm-hmm. I used to love that. Very jealous of Fred's Jose Luis Garcia Lopez art, especially his Jonah Hex pages. Caesar's ready and raring to go into the artwork. No worries, we're gonna get there in a second. Anyone want to hang out with me? hang. It's okay. We don't. You don't have to correct yourself. Everybody knows when it's a typo, man. We will sing songs if there are no words with art. But the rewind people. Imagine they'd be like, "Why is there something?" They'd be like, "Is there something wrong with the volume? What's going on?" Show and no tell. Yeah, exactly. I don't give handies. Nice. Leave it to you. A derailer. Talk more about the weather, guys. Or better, original art with weather. Going off the rails about going off the rails. Rails, we don't need no stinking rails. You guys know. You guys are regulars, so you know what this is all about. Groff had to pump his product. Let's not even get into another conversation about Gary. Marcus, why give handies for original art? You're an animal. Stop shit. What's up, Derek? Good to see you, man. Yes, hands across, man. Inside joke. Who would deny length? What's up, Dwayne Zapane? Good to see you, man. My clumsy ass just knocked the word balloon off a piece of art. Do I reattach? Yes, you do. See, this is why on my channel things go back and forth at the drop of a dime. So yes, you may have already been replied, but I have been doing that for years, Jason. Just make sure you stick glue and make sure you get stick glue that says it's what do you call it? Either acid free or archival, rather. You got the
Elmer's glue has a good glue stick, and they're not very expensive.
Yeah, let me see which is the one that I have.
Get them from any art store.
Yeah, Elmer's. I don't know if this is a Canadian or an American brand. Pritt, but yeah, this type of when I say glue stick, because I don't know if everybody's familiar with these things, but it's like, yeah, the thing that sticks out. There you go. So use that, Jason, and and you're good to go. And I've been doing it for 20 whatever years, and it's always worked just fine. And so that's it. You don't need to worry about it. Maybe do I need to send this into a restorer or whatever? That's a waste of time and money. So please don't do that. That's when Stanley gets chatty. Yeah, I don't know if he's here tonight. Probably not. Oh yeah, please. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, because I know my usual Mr. Easy-Go-Lucky had to come in and leave right away, so he's not here pumping up the likes. But I appreciate it. Please hit the like if you can remember to do that. Do it right now, guys. I really appreciate you. Those of you watching on Rewind, also, please. Most of you on Rewind never bother to. Please, I'm begging, if you're listening to this part of the show, just click the little thumb there, the little thumb icon. It's really quick. It doesn't do anything to you. It doesn't make me any money. Don't worry. But it just helps the algorithm think that, hey, the show is getting popular. We'll put it in front of the eyes of some other people who may like it. That's all. Yeah. So exactly, Marcus. So glue stick. And I'm not keeping people usually doing chores while tuning in. Yeah, a lot of guys do. A lot of people do double duty. Yeah. And nothing wrong with that, for sure. I appreciate that. And don't laminate it. I don't know what you mean by that. A glue stick is actually acid-free glue. Is it always though? Is it always? Because I don't trust that it always is. For me, if it doesn't say the keywords on the actual glue stick, I would not trust it. That's just me though. Because listen, it's not hard to get an acid-free archival glue stick anyways. So, if you go to the art store where they sell them, you should be able to, it should say that on it anyways, so Rubén the Stressasaurus, yeah, that was from earlier. Y'all ready for fun? Yeah, let's get into it. Give me a minute. Let me just catch up on the comments. Date meth? What? I don't do meth, just in case anybody's wondering if he's accusing me of it. I've never done meth. Dang, autocorrect. That was supposed to be Rubén the Telethon. Nice. Rubén the Sprout. We NorCal people say hella. Like hella cool. Yeah, I think you got that from Cartman, though, didn't you? Isn't he the first guy who kind of did the hella? That's when I first heard it. Montreal girls are beautiful. And you've been here. You've been here, and you know it. Very true. I agree. But then again, so are California girls. So, listen, you can find beautiful women in any city in the world if you look long enough.
Don't look too long, though. You get in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, I'm married, just to make it clear, and my lovely wife is always here, and she's probably listening. And but it's all good. She knows it's all good. Hearts van is coming to Melting Pot, Montreal. I would love for you to drive the van up all the way from Cali. That would be awesome. Good luck trying to make it all the way. Montreal gals keep the guys warm during the winter. Rubén the monologuer, Rubén the lady expert. I don't know about that so much. But Fred did ask. Midwest farmers' daughters really make you feel all right. Exactly, Mr. Roth. Exactly. I wish they could all be Montreal girls. Rubén has touched the girl before. Nice. I'm loving all the musical references. We shall make him king. Nice. And there's Stanley begging for the art talk. Yeah, we're going to get to it. We're getting to it. I'm just wanting to get the last few comments. I don't like to ignore any of you. I'll take only comic art collectors know for 300. Alex, 40 minutes in, and I don't know anything about Fred.
You might be better off.
You're going to in a second. There's only a couple of comments. I'm catching up. It's harder to find one that says acid glue. Is it? Okay, I don't know. Like I said, acid free or archival. Like I said, no, NorCal was saying hella long before South Park existed. I'll take your word for it, NorCal dude. I'll take your word for it, man. I'm just telling you when I first heard it. I believe it was South Park. So Beach Boy sang it first. Yeah, Dwayne's a pain. We know. It's just that it became kind of cool with that David Lee Roth video. He made it cooler than the Beach Boys did, No doubt a song called Hella Good that came out in 2002. They're from Orange County. Yeah, no, I know that. But South Park was doing it in like 95, like when they first started. So there you go. All right, everybody. Stanley and number one Marvel fan. Those two viewers would like to know a little bit more about you, Fred. So actually, what we typically do, anyways, is and I don't ask questions, right? I don't come prepared with questions, so I don't interview anybody. But in order for the audience to get to know my friends who come into the studio just a little bit, it would be cool if you could just give us a little bit of background as to when and how you first discovered comics. That's always kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. And then briefly how that segued into and at what point, you discovered art and how you got into it. I think I'll buy this first piece or whatever, And we'll just go from there.
Okay. Well, we were talking before the show. I've got 3 years on you. I'm 55, and I'm originally from Vermont. And in the early 70s, comics were everywhere. Drugstores, gas stations, pharmacies, drugstores, department stores, grocery stores.
You had really good access in Vermont.
Yeah. I mean, they're as good at access as you can have for anything in Vermont, anyway. But I got connected with them pretty early. We didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't get tons of them. But any chance I had, I jump into them. Started out.
But can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Can I take that to mean, though, that your parents were supportive enough that they would be the ones to occasionally buy you comics?
There was a lot of begging, but
okay.
yeah, I mean, both my parents were readers. I have strong memories of both of them reading in the living room at night.
Okay, cool.
And their thoughts were very much, as long as he wants to read something. So, I mean, I remember Sad Sack and Casper and all the silly child stuff. And then I see that, CJ. I was in Sanford, Maine for a year as well. Yeah, Archie comics and Hot Stuff and Richie Rich and anything I could get my hands on. Sunday comics and the papers. And then I moved to some DC and Marvel stuff, and I got hooked on Marvel pretty early on. Even as a kid, they resonated more with me. You know,
let me interrupt just because I gotta ask. I think it's really interesting, right? Because as we all know, right, for pretty much all our lives, certainly, Marvel has been the dominant of the two publishers, right?
Right.
So, what would you say if you had to look back on it, looking in retrospect? What would you say, given that you were getting not only the Caspers, Richie Riches, and then the two biggies in the superhero realm? What would you say is the primary reason that it was the Marvels that sort of resonated more than DC?
Right. Well, and I think it's the stuff that you know, the company that Marvel has really pushed for years is that, you know, DC had a 50-year jump on them or whatever it was, and you know, my numbers are off, 30-year jump on them.
Yeah, whatever.
And you know, the Silver Age and the Golden Age, they were very sterile. They spoke perfect English. The heroes were solid. They didn't appear to have any flaws. I don't know if I actively thought they were boring, but you know, seeing Spider-Man and, you know, having issues with his aunt, and then you know, the Parker luck. I talk about the Chamberlain luck quite a bit. It just resonated a little more. And so it was pretty easy for me to jump from DC to Marvel very, very quickly. And certainly, you know, at one age, anything I could get a hold of was fair game. Grim ghost stories.
Oh, wow.
Anything.
Even, wow. Okay.
But the DC stuff, you know, it was fairly limited. You know,
in terms of your interest or the accessibility to them?
I would say my interest. I mean,
okay.
I had collected some, and someone pointed out my Jose stuff. I remember even as a kid, long before I was paying attention to artists, there were a couple of DC books that would always stand out to me, and his Superman covers always did. That DC Comics Presents #1 just felt to me it had a Marvel vibe to it, and probably because of his art style. But yeah, I was a Spidey kid. I was a Hulk kid. X-Men didn't do much for me as a kid. I didn't know the characters. You know, some George Perez Avengers, some late Kirby Avengers. Marvel Team Up.
And interesting, because you've got 3 years on me in age, but it's not just the 3 years earlier. You it sounds to me like you also were discovering comics at a much earlier age. Like,
yeah, before I could read.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, that makes all the difference. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I wasn't getting many when I was young, but you know, there was a store we would walk through the woods, very idyllic, right? Vermont. We'd go through the woods and we walked to this gas station we weren't supposed to go to, and they had comics on the racks, and, you know, so we had pretty extensive access to them.
Yeah. Marcus makes a great point, and it's so true, right? I remember the self-referential, Marvel was self-referential with the editor's notes telling you that they had a history of continuity. I mean, that was it absolutely was just key. Like, I don't even know, like, on the level of importance, to how important is it to do certain things so that you can grab these readers and pull them in for life, kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
On the level of important, like, that was so important. Exactly. The second I opened my first comic and I would see the little editor's note, you know, oh, back in Avengers 221 or whatever, right? And you, okay, wow. And eventually, if you have access to like a comic shop, eventually, oh shit, now I can go back and maybe I'll look for that issue. And oh my God, that was so important.
Yeah, well, they had a shared, a very shared universe too. I mean, Marvel Team Up was one of my favorite books, but seeing Spidey, a lot of my intros to other characters were through that series, and I loved it. But even the reprint series that Mark has pointed out, amazing Marvel Tales. Like I was reading Ramita stuff that I missed the first time around.
Yeah,
Ross Andrew was my guy, but one of the things in my CAF gallery, I have a Ben Grimm poker game gallery. And that's a nod to the poker games that he used to host every once in a while in the background of a lot of these issues. Okay. I love that as a kid, again, because it really kind of grounded these characters in the same universe. And Ben had the perfect disposition for a poker game, right? And he would have, Nick Fury, and he would have all of his buddies, and Bill Foster, Power Man was in one. And, fun.
I used to. I was, even as a kid. Yeah. I mean, I never, got much into playing cards, but I always, those scenes where you would suddenly see them being pals with each other, right? They would resonate, right? It's like, because again, it's not about the card game. It's about, they're doing something that they can share together and they're buddies, right? It makes you feel like it's not just, this guy has his comic and that guy has his comic, but when in the in-between issues, they hang out together. You know what I mean?
Right. And it wasn't them, obviously, it wasn't them playing cards. It was them reacting to each other, right? And the fun thing about those commissions was, initially I gave a little more guidance than I did later on, but I had asked for, the Thing and Daredevil and maybe Spidey, and then let them add whoever they wanted to. And artists went to town on those. Fortunately, I got them before commissions started going through the roof. And so, and it became more difficult to get commissions. So I've got a good sized collection that I'm really happy with. But those character interactions were always what grounded me to that universe. You read something and you could hear Ben Grimm's voice, right? Or you knew what Spider-Man was going to say. And in the DC books, they were a little more interchangeable. You didn't necessarily see someone flying in the background of a Batman comic, right? But Marvel seemed a lot more accessible to me for those reasons.
Yeah, and Derek made a good point too, in terms of, because I believe the reason, there's many reasons, right? But I believe the reason Marvel sort of just took over and stayed there is, again, there's so many reasons, but I mean, that's a whole show altogether that doesn't even have anything to do with original art, But it's almost like not only was Marvel doing all the right things, it felt like DC often did a lot of wrong things, And Derek, let me pop it back up again because it's a long comment. So there's a long-standing theory that DC either doesn't have a Bronze Age or has a muddy delineation for when their Bronze Age started. But I know what you're saying, right? Like, the thing about, like, let's say pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths DC, I think one of the biggest problems with DC is just that, like, they this whole thing about the all these different Earths, right? Like, I read some DC comics, but I hated the fact that it wasn't like Marvel, where everything's one Earth and that's it, right? It was like Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth whatever, all these different Earths, and I didn't like that. It didn't seem real. And then you have the whole fact that the writers treated their biggest character, Superman, right? Who as a kid, I loved because of the 1978 movie, and yet I wanted to get into the comics, but I could see that the comics were just, it's like he didn't have an equal adversary or adversaries, not even one, let alone many, right? Who you could ever believe that, this guy's going to pose a challenge to him, right? So, because he always just came off as way too powerful. Yeah. And so the stories, when you look at the comics, I mean, beyond the Garcia Lopez covers, right? It didn't make me want to really read them. And when I did read them, it'd be like, okay, just kind of the stories were kind of bogus. Because again, it just didn't seem challenging. There was no challenge to be posed to this guy.
Well,
and so when they would write the story as if, oh, look at the villain, he's got him on the ropes. I couldn't believe, like, I couldn't suspend my disbelief, right? Because it's like, yeah, I would be like, yeah, right, as if that would happen. You know what I mean? And
I remember Parasite issues in the 70s stood out because it weakened Superman. But you know, you'd mentioned there were a lot of reasons for it, and I believe that's true as well. From the reading I've done and even conversations I've had with various creators, it seems to me that one of the perks that Stan had going for him was, you know, editorial was dictated, you know, and directed by businessmen and the people that own the company, publishers, and Goodman was as hard ass as anybody at DC. But Stan sort of snuck in a few things here and there. And once Goodman saw the stuff was selling, he let him do it. DC saw the success of Marvel. And from the way I interpret it, they tried to mimic some of the things without understanding how to mimic the spirit of it. And so, you know, they might say, well, we need people who swing instead of people who fly, or we might need whatever. I mean, silly things that they're seeing from the outside, but as brilliant as Schwartz was, I don't think he truly grasped grounding and there's the feet of clay, right? Which is really what hooks kids in. Well, people.
I agree. I mean, that I absolutely had as much as anything else really to do with it, right? I mean, it was so much more realistic, and we could really relate a lot more, right? Beyond the capes and the swinging and this web slinging and whatever. It was when they weren't being superheroes, that's when the reality hits you, right? Like Peter's problems with the Aunt May thing, you know, all that's, you know, his girl problems. And, you know, I mean, we all use Peter Parker as the ultimate example, but all the characters had certain issues going on in their kind of personal lives that really grounded it so much more in reality, that made it more believable and made you want to follow. Like I always say, the X-Men, to me, I did get into it. And for me, X-Men was a family. So as a kid, it's funny, I tell people all the time, I loved X-Men because I felt it was a family. They were written like they became family. There was all these strangers from different countries that were put together, right, by Professor X. They get to learn to know each other. And then you have all these interactions amongst themselves, these interpersonal things where, like, ultimately over time, Logan develops a sort of brother-sister relationship with Aurora, Storm, right? And then there was these other dynamics where he becomes kind of like a father figure to Kitty Pryde, and onward and onward. And it was very family-oriented. It felt like a family to me. Whereas with Avengers, I used to read the individual solo comics of the characters in the Avengers, but I didn't bother to buy Avengers the comic.
Right.
Because it always seemed silly to me to think, like, I would see some scenes where, like, here we are at Avengers Mansion, and they're standing around indoors in a house in full regalia, right? Sitting on the couch in full regalia. Like, you would not be doing that. And a lot of them didn't even tell each other their secret identities. So they're living in the mansion, but they don't know who each other is. Like, to me, that was stupid. It was just like, no, I don't get it, you know? And so you know how the Defenders was always referred to as everybody's favorite non-team? To me, Avengers felt like that. Like, Avengers felt like you're not really a true team, because how can you really work as a team together if you don't even know who's under that costume inside the iron armor or whatever, you know? So yeah.
It's interesting, though. I mean, part of the magic of the Avengers, if you think about it, back from the very first issue, they were sort of forced to come together, and they really didn't get along very well.
True.
And you know, until you were sharing that, I wasn't thinking about that. But one of the things that is unfortunate about DC is I think that they were trapped by their previous successes. You know, Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman were the books. and they were the books for decades. And so business wise, why would anybody want to change that? But going back as an adult and buying those brilliant showcases, you know, the best stuff coming out from DC, I think in much of the late Silver and Bronze Age, the war comics, the horror comics, the Jonah Hex stuff, those were characters that were able to be written without any previous restraints because they were new characters. And so there was a lot more liberty that could be taken with the writing, and even probably because of the genre of the books. But anybody, you know, if you want to see read some great stories, read Sergeant Rock, or which would be Marvel, obviously, but God, that sounded so geeky.
DC.
But read Our Army at War, read you know, those ghost stories, or you know, I'm blanking on some of them, but
but I know. I think we all know.
There's some great stuff out there, and brilliant art, right? I mean, Kubert spent most of his career drawing war comics.
Yeah, absolutely. Although it's funny, I think it was in last week's episode with Jason Kim that I mentioned it. That the thing, I don't know, about a decade ago or something, I reread a bunch of Sergeant Rock's Our Army at War, and it was still fun, but I did mention that I didn't like it as much as I did when I was, you know, in my teens, early 20s or whatever. What I realized about a decade ago when I reread a bunch of them was I was like, oh, wow, it never dawned on me that practically every single story is a morality tale. So by the end, you learn the lesson or whatever. And it's fine. And I like morality tales. It's just that everyone is basically a morality tale. So it's repetitive in that sense. You know what I mean? But still fun, you know, still good, solid reads. And the artwork is, you know, beyond fantastic. So really great stuff. You know, Marcus, from what I remember, the Dollar Comics had reprints. I think so. But again, like you, I wouldn't bet on it, or if that was the older 100-pagers. I think the Dollar Comics had some new stuff with reprints as well. I think it was a mixture of both. Yeah. And Mark Fong had asked, you know, I wonder how many people like me were introduced to comics at the barbershop. I mean, it was a time where in our youth, most of us didn't have comic shops, and so I mean, the corner store or the barbershop, plenty of people, you know, were introduced to it to the barbershop. Now, these days, not so much anymore, obviously, right? It's so. Interesting though that Jason says he admits that was his entry point, the barbershop. That's so cool. But times change, right? It just goes to show how much times change. So we had no comic shops, and of course, in our early days, most people didn't. Passaic Bookstore, New Jersey, mail order, and the Buyer's Guide. But at least you had options. You know, you had something. Here's the well-thumbed comics and barbershops. Yeah, the good old days. DC's Bronze Age is supposed to be Superman. Kind of that new, changing Superman again. Thank you again, CJ, for taking over the duties tonight. I appreciate it. Yes, please, if you can, everybody, please hit that thumbs up button just down below. Would really appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. And all the 7-Eleven and most drugstores here had comics. And that was awesome. I would ride to the store and stand in back to read. Yeah, I mean, I think that was most common. Like corner stores were probably one of the most common, if not the most common, you know. Nick is confirming mostly the 100-pagers had them. Okay. But even he's not 100% sure. So crazy story. My friends got food stamps, were in paper form back then, and we would buy 10-cent candy with dollar stamps. Oh, and they would give you change to buy comics. We hit like 8 stores a week doing this. You guys are hilarious. Hey, you had to do what you had to do. It's like all those stories of the kids in high school or junior high when your parents would give you, you know, a buck or two to buy lunch at school, and instead you would starve so you could use that money after school and go to the store and buy some comics. You know, you did what you had to do to get your comics. DC thought the audience would change over and age out. Yeah. Well, DC, the thing to me is, I always say, DC, I don't think I don't think they really read enough Marvel, if they read them at all. It just seemed like they looked at them and flipped through them and thought, what are they doing that we're not doing? You know, I don't think they really read them. Because I feel like if they had read them, they would have found out pretty quickly what the difference was, you know,
or even if they had paid attention to some of the standouts from the 70s. Neil Adams wrote some and drew some extraordinary stuff with Denny O'Neil, Batman, Green Arrow, Green Lantern.
Sure.
There's a lot of standout stuff there.
We definitely have what I would say, DC has their exceptions to the rule. Right. But those are exceptions. We can't say that like for every title that they had on all the main DC characters, it's not like you can look back and think the way you do with Marvel, like with Marvel, for example, where depending on your age and when you were introduced to comics, my God, like Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man, because he's the main guy. So we will use him as the example. Spider-Man, depending on your age, you could be easily saying, oh my God, my era, that was the Ditko era. Awesome, right? Those issues are amazing. And then you get the guys, oh, no. The best was the Ramita right afterwards. Oh, that was the best, And then you're going to get people like me. I started in the early 80s. Oh my God, I think was it Roger Stern writing them at the time? But Ramita Jr. and then Ron Frenz on art in that whole era throughout the 80s. I thought that was fantastic. That was my favorite era. So the thing is that you can say that about almost every Marvel title. But with DC, at least pre-Crisis, you can't look back at all their main titles. Like, let's say Wonder Woman, right? Wonder Woman. Was there like what comes to mind? Was there an era?
Delbo.
Who?
Jose Delbo.
But that's not even like an era. That's right. It's not like people remember that as, oh, this issue from here to around there where Delbo was on the art. Oh, those were great issues. Like nobody does that or says that. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. Whereas X-Men, you got people with the Neil Adams X-Men, my favorites. Oh, no, not until Claremont and Byrne and Austin took over. Those are the best. Or not until, Romita Jr. or Silvestri or Jim Lee, or it goes on and on and on, right? But with DC,
well, overall, people weren't passionate about the company's product. You're right.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Yeah. But it's kind of like, why would you be? Isn't that right? Isn't it kind of like, doesn't that make sense? Like, how could I have gotten passionate? They weren't really. It's like Mark Fong says here. So they wrote comics as standalone episodes, but Marvel used to also. But Marvel treated the comics as chapters of a longer running soap opera, right? And that's very true. I loved single standalone issues. So I don't think that's a problem. It's just that I think the way DC handled it was that this month's standalone issue of Superman or Wonder Woman or Batman doesn't necessarily seem to have anything to do with last month's standalone issue. You would read an issue and you would think, like, it just seems like there's this huge disconnect and there's no continuity.
Or certainly what happened in Detective, right? And what happened in Batman didn't affect what was happening.
Right.
It would be reference.
Right. Until the 80s when they wised up and they started, right, having one story go into the other. So they would split them up. So Batman was, let's say, the first week of the month, and then 2 weeks later, Detective. 2 weeks after that, you get your Batman. And then at a certain point, they started interweaving the stories together. But that's the 80s by that point. What about the previous 50 years or whatever, It's like, yeah, so that's I think it's, for me, that's one of the biggest things about DC. So,
well, and another thing to consider, and again, as we're talking about it, it came to mind, but I'm not sure I thought about it before. Marvel also had the good fortune to have Stan writing all of those major books.
Right.
So, talk about, one source, right? And the cohesiveness that kind of brings, bringing the Fantastic Four into a Hulk issue, or bringing the Hulk into an early, issue of FF or Spidey, right? I mean, all that stuff was great. And that just continued.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, what's up, Rich? Good to see you, man. I hope you're going to hang in a while. let me just say, hey, Comic Art Boston. Wow, that's very nice of you. You've checked it. Nothing wrong with Morality Tales. I knew. You know what is so funny? When I said that, I thought of you. I was literally thinking of you. Was thinking, okay, if he were here listening to me say this, he's gonna say something about that against me. And there you were, coming in just in time to say
when
that.
When did comics become Morality Tales?
And the Westerns had that all the time. Yeah, I would love to read the Westerns again. I never read enough Westerns. And I love the Western genre. But it would be fun to go back and read some of that old stuff. Hey, Mike, what's up, man? Well, now you know, and knowing's half the battle. You, G.I. Joe, freak you. CJ, okay, you're talking to him. Yo, Joe, okay. Few or no marbles at the barbershop, though. Well, in your barbershop, I guess. They didn't know how to choose and pick, I suppose. And yeah, so everybody, let me take a quick little break. And thank you, Nick, as well, for trying to rally the likes. Yes, please, everybody, if you can hit the thumbs up button there just down below the video screen, would really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let me take a moment to remind everybody to please tune in to Nick's show, the EXP, the Original Art Experience, every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. And that is here. Let me show you the URL first, www.youtube.com/theexp. It is, for those of you who do not know, those of you watching on Rewind, maybe watching for the first time, if your main interest in the hobby is looking for, hunting, and buying art, tune in to this URL on every Friday, as I said, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. It's a sales show. It's a weekly sales show run by Nick Barucci. And it's not even fair to call it a sales show. It's a sales/chat show. That's the niche that Nick has with his part of this hobby on YouTube. It's the fact that it's a combination sales/chat show. So a lot of fun, great way to end the work week, very relaxing way. And I believe this week, and Nick, you can confirm if you want to, I believe this week, Nick maybe, or for sure, I'm not sure if I want to say for sure, but maybe breaking up a Romita Jr. Scott Hanna Spider-Man book, number 11, that he actually showed this past Friday and offered this past Friday. So he may be breaking that up. So I'm sure he's going to let us know any second now. So if that's the case, tune in on Friday and check that out. And you can see that here, just so you guys remember. There's the lovely gentleman. And yeah, Friday, 7 p.m., as you see, and lovely Amy, who assists and basically runs the show for Nick, is hidden behind the graphic. But yeah, check it out every Friday, 7 p.m., 4 o'clock Pacific. There we go. And let me see if he has tuned in to confirm. Yes, thank you for the likes. I do appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you're very welcome, Nick. Are you confirming? So yes, the complete Spider-Man number 11 will be broken up. So that'll be fun. That'll be good. And it's not the first time that Nick will have broken up a Spider-Man book on the show. So check that out, guys. And there's a killer splash for those of you who love the Hobgoblin. I saw it quickly, so I believe it was the Hobgoblin. Killer splash. Tune in just to see that if you haven't seen it. Sorry, Fred, go ahead.
I was just going to mention, we were talking about DC Comics Presents number 1 with the Flash and Superman. Nick owns the original art for that cover. And I believe it's posted on CAF. Yeah.
Oh, Nick has that one. Yeah. That's a classic one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah. And you know what's funny? I remember in the early 2000s, Albert Moy had it, and I was in San Diego, and he had it there. And I okay, that's cool, whatever. But as usual, I was like, too expensive, whatever. I'm not, I got other fish to fry. I don't even remember. Right. I don't remember what the price was, but you know what? Same thing with, I'll never forget. Same thing with Jonah Hex number 1. I was like, oh man, I gotta get me Jonah Hex number 1. That's cool, But as usual, it was Albert who had it, and I believe the price was $5,000. I want to say, And of course, but again, early 2000s. So put it in context of the time, $5,000 was an absolute fortune, man. Fortune in those days.
Yeah.
You know, so it was kind of like, I would love to have that, you know, Jonah Hex 1, but like $5K, like it might as well have been, you know, $50K now, that kind of thing. You know, it's like,
oh, we all have those stories. They're
yeah, exactly. So that's my, you know, exactly. Comic Art Boston says, Fred, like you, my parents encouraged reading, but only have half subsidy for comics as opposed to the books.
Yeah, I read voraciously, and comics was one of many types of books that I read. Yeah, but it was certainly, it made it much easier to get into because my parents were just very, very encouraging of it. But they were buying books regularly for me, comics not so much. So probably in the same field.
Okay. Did you get the sense, or did they even perhaps even tell you verbally out loud to your face something like, you know, oh, you know, Fred, it's fine, I guess, but we'd really prefer, you know, read more books, not comics. In other words, give you the sense verbally that we think comics are for kids and you should kind of read better stuff? Like,
no, I think it was more along the fact that we could go to the library and get books for free, and a paperback book at that point would be a couple of bucks, but a comic book would be 35 cents. And, you know, if you're done with a comic in 10 minutes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But no, I don't remember them ever looking down on it, which was cool.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, because we've talked about this on my channel like many times. Because I excuse me, I was one of those people who did not have, you know, immigrant parents from a small European country whose generation, you know, for them, look, to be fair, for them, comics in Spain were, you know, just like in America, like they were in their days, they were meant for little children, right? They were aimed at, it was a product for children. And of course, you know, people from that generation never sort of break out of that mentality and think that, hey, things maybe change over time. Once you kind of have that ingrained in your head, most people tend to have that thought ingrained forever, you know? Right. So yeah, for me, it was like, no. There was like, it was, if anything, it was like anti, like, no, don't read that. Don't you dare, stop wasting your money on that shit, you know, that kind of stuff. So,
well, I remember, you know, being in kindergarten and talking about arachnids.
Really?
And, that was impressive to some
wow.
people. So my parents got a kick out of that.
Using that word, I mean, exactly. That's what's amazing. I tell people, I've always told people, a lot of what I learned in life, including a lot of my grammar, initially came through comics, through reading comics. You know,
you dump your blonde girlfriend for a redhead, you know, morality tales.
Yeah. I won't say I you know, took those lessons to heart, but you learn things. You learn things for sure. Right. You know, yeah. So, oh, you're welcome, Nick. You're very welcome. And sorry, yes, it is Broken Up Friday. Sorry. Here, I'm just falling behind on the comments a little bit. Let me catch up a bit. Breaking up is hard to do. Yeah, look at that. If Tariq is thinking in the same wavelength as you. Nick is the Yoko Ono of complete comic art issues. Nice. I like that one. Nice. That's a good one. Love that. Nick Ferrucci, World Breaker. That is so funny. Sending you the entire book. Okay, that's nice, Nick, but I'm not sure what you want me to do with that because I'm live and I don't know what I can do. I would have to like save the scans into my hard drive and then pop them like into the software. You got to prepare these things, FYI, just for the future. Prepare these things in advance and rather than during the live show. Yeah, prepare in advance. I'd be happy to show what I got to show, man. But I can't do that right now. Yes. Let us see. So Nick is the new Berkey. Is that right? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Nick, the good thing is that you are spreading the issue amongst collectors. That's true. That's true. Oh, sorry. That is a good thing. Oh, okay. It's easier for me to do with new books. Yeah, exactly. So this is the point I wanted to get to. When it comes to breaking up books, you look like Fred and I both relate to this as representatives of artists' original art. It's not the same thing when it's brand new. You get a brand new book. Listen, this hobby would never have gotten off the ground. It would never exist if there was in some way everybody felt here's a morality tale. This morality issue of, of course it's a complete story. They're sold as complete comics, so of course you can never break them up to sell the artwork separately. If that were to have happened, this hobby would never have existed. But yeah, when it's brand new, it's brand new. It's when it's older, the more age they accrue, that's when it gets harder, because you start feeling as a collector, the completist part of you starts thinking, well, it already survived intact for this many years. So now you start feeling guilty. Like, do I really want to be the one who breaks it up? It's whatever. And that's kind of what starts to play into your head, right? So, yeah, so that's what happens. But newer stuff, yeah, it's way easier. Public libraries in Singapore have trades and omnibus. So do we, and I'm sure all over North America. And Murdoch, what's up, Murdoch? My mom encouraged me to read comics. That's fantastic. You have a great mom, so thank her for that. Even credits my ability to read and all. There you go.
Even changed his last name based on reading comics.
Who, Murdoch?
Murdoch.
Oh.
Or is that his first name, maybe?
That's funny. That's actually his last name. As long as you don't learn from reading Pogo. You mean because of the racist overtones?
Or Cherry Pop-Tart.
Or Cherry Pop-Tart. Yeah, you learned a lot from comics. Stanley increased one's vocabulary manifold. Yeah, it's very true. It really, really is true. And not just him, but everybody after, or, a lot of people after. Mom and dad had no problems with them, but as usual, my dad would call them those damn funny books. Yeah, whatever, but that's okay compared to, mine and a lot of people who had it even worse than me. And, so yeah, I always tell people who, if they had good parents that way, man, thank them every day for that, man. CJ with pictures, it was easier to guess the meaning of big words in context. Very true too. Telling stories with pictures and words, right? It's a combination of both. Comics were actually quite beneficial on a larger scale. Absolutely. I didn't do something in case you could show up. Yeah, like I said, I just don't. Yeah, I'm not a huge tech wizard, in case you haven't figured it out yet, Nick. Hey, Eric. Good to see you, man. Do you know Eric?
Yeah.
Okay. Eric lives just about 10 blocks away from me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Think Fred just made me realize why I love redheads. Nice. That's it. Learned a lot of slang. Cripes, Eusta, maybe.
Chuckles. I used to call everybody Chuckles as a kid. Spider-Man used to say that all the time.
Yeah, that's right. To the bad guys, right? Yeah. Learned grammar from comics too. Yeah, exactly. That's why I end every sentence with an exclamation point. I do that a lot. I love the exclamation point, I must say. But it's, I'm excited about life, so I got to put exclamation points. Nothing wrong with that. No wonder you're yelling all the time. Thank you. I wish there really was an ultimate nullifier. No, they did Swamp Talk, and my dad was a hoot. Yeah, well, that's great. So why don't we show the first piece of art, because I was going to do it earlier when you mentioned the part of Marvel Comics that we love, where you would see those scenes of the guys playing cards, right? Mm-hmm. I thought that's a good segue, even though, of course, it's been a while since we talked about that. But I thought that would have been a good segue to show my first piece of art is related to that.
Okay.
And just for all of you, in case you're curious, I once again have been for this week. I was the one who did the picks. I chose the artwork, and Fred doesn't. I didn't show Fred, so Fred doesn't have a clue as to what I'm showing tonight. So he'll be finding out right now, along together with you guys at the same time. So first piece I'm going to show is this really fun piece. So, guys, this is 2 different commissions. So now, Fred, you know what this is.
Oh, I know what it is.
This is 2 different commissions, but of course, done with a certain idea in mind so that they go together. So check this out. And when I show this, feel free to tell us whatever you want to tell us about it, Fred. Here we go.
Dave Wachter. Love that guy. Yeah, I think I must have asked him to do the Ben Grimm first, and then I thought he would do a really good Jonah Hex. Dave's actually been around for years now. He actually this past week just his first issue of Planet of the Apes from Marvel just came out, so it's timely. Okay. But he does great work with ink wash. He's done Turtles books. He's done a lot of indie stuff. He did a Bones of the Golem, I think it was called, a handful of years ago. There is a Western book that he did as well, digitally, and it was released as a hardcover through Dark Horse. And I want to say it's Valley of something, but it definitely, it's one of the most beautiful graphic novels I've ever seen. So Dave is really talented, and these 2 guys seem to be a perfect fit. So he jumped on it when I asked him to do the second one.
Yeah, a lot of fans in the live chat digging it as well. Yeah, I mean, I love both characters, so I thought, oh, that's just great, a great choice for 2 people sitting and playing poker or whatever it is they're going to play. You know, I thought it was really fun, and yeah, I really dig the fact that both of them can be put together, either in frames, together in a frame if you wanted to, or even 2 separate frames. It would still look really cool next to each other.
Such dour looking guys too.
What do they got to be so gruff about?
Well, Jonah's bullets can't penetrate Ben, and
amazing commission. Yeah, great faces, pair of aces. Nick says that his Planet of the Apes is great. Working with David Walker.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And CJ says, great pages. Sweet ink wash tones. Yep. Carl says, nice. And Mark's a big Gaga fan, apparently. A poker face. And it's true that they're both technically disfigured, although Ben looks a little bit chin disfigured here, but technically in most comics throughout history, I don't think we can say Ben is obviously he's disfigured in the sense that his skin is made out of rock, but he looks pretty damn cool for a guy whose skin is rock, so he doesn't look ugly. The guy I feel sorry for, if I'm going to feel sorry for anybody, is definitely Hex. I mean, that guy, it's nasty what he's got on
Rick
his face.
Has just totally destroyed my love for my galleries and my childhood memories now. He's broken the illusion.
That's funny. Rick always thinks about these things.
Crushed me.
Leave it to you, Rick.
I'm selling it all.
Oh, that's so funny. Thanks, Nick. And thanks, everybody, for your support. Thank you so much for hitting that like button. Please, if you haven't done so already, please keep doing it and keep that up. I appreciate it so much. Derek says, he was more disfigured when Wolverine took a swipe at his face and decided to wear a bucket on his head. I remember that. I got to say, Derek, I hated that. I hated that era. Yeah. It just pissed me off. Like every month after month, I got to look at one of my favorite characters with a stupid bucket on his head. You look like nobody can see Fred, but Fred, you look like you were also remembering that era and thinking, "Oh God, yeah, annoying, right?"
Wasn't my favorite era of the book, and if I recall correctly, Wolverine's the one that did the damage, and that's what Derek said, and it just I remember the provocation just seemed completely insignificant for the response. It didn't fit.
Right. Yeah, I barely remember the details of any of those comics from back then. I just remember that I liked them or I didn't like them or whatever I felt about them is what I kind of remember. Mm-hmm. And I just remember, oh man, yeah. But again, I don't know which came first because it's been so long, but it was around that same time where first, well, or maybe second, the thing with the bucket on the head. And then you have that, again, remember, I'm forgetting my timeline here, guys. So don't crucify me. But then around that same time, you had the she thing with the McDonald's costume.
Right.
The big McDonald's logo on the costume, right? And she was kind of, I don't know, she was annoying. And then you had Spiky thing, and then that looked ugly. And then wasn't there also she thing? Did both of them become Spiky? It was just a disaster, like aesthetically speaking. I just remember thinking, like, these are some of the coolest characters, and you're making them look really ugly month after month. Come on.
Well, and again, at that point, I don't think I had read the Kirby stuff at that point, but you and I grew up with George Perez, Keith Pollard. We had and John Byrne, lengthy run, so we were spoiled.
Yeah.
How do you match that, right?
Exactly. No, that's true. I totally agree. Derek, you're laughing, but I have to say, did that never occur to you? Because literally the first issue she appeared in, as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh my God, why did they put her in a McDonald's outfit? That's what I thought. To me, it looked like the arches, the McDonald's arches. So
and it makes you sound sexist now when you say the double arches, right? Like you're some sort of chauvinist.
Exactly. Got to be careful what I say. How
eyes off the arches.
CJ also is like Spiky thing. But Derek, I know because of our age gap difference, I know that you were gonna love Spiky thing. But that's not great because Rubén, the non-competition. I promise you, my friend, I promise I will never be bidding on those pages. I leave them all to you, man. And Godspeed and good luck to you. I hope you get them all. That is so funny. That is so funny. But it just goes to show I've made this point many, many times over the years, both here, like in private conversations, but even here on the show, where I say, that's the beauty about, I guess, being a kid, right? When you're young enough, you still haven't developed the ability to think critically. And that's why all of us, no matter which decade was our decade for comics, right? Our period, there's always somebody out there who will say, oh, I love that era. So, right? So everybody's crap era was like, that was the worst. You know that there's a generation of guys who are like, oh, I love that. That's right. Because they were also kids when that's what they were exposed to. Right. So it makes sense, just like guys who are older than us, 15 years older than us, let's say, right? Who grew up reading the 60s, 70s books, right? And although, you were, because you started younger than me, you were also reading 70s books, but let's say second half of the 70s primarily, I would think, right? But there's people who would have probably looked down at you also and said, like, oh, 70s, oh, that crap. The 60s is where it's at. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, and that's really one of the things I remind myself with, like, the newer stuff is I don't want to be the crotchety old guy who's saying comics today suck.
Right.
It's different. The writing styles have evolved, but we've also been there, I would imagine, where a childhood favorite, you go back to reread it and either it's not as good as I remember or it doesn't hold up, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
that's
their entertainment.
Yeah. I'm gonna piss off probably a bunch of my pals here, a bunch of our pals in the chat, because I mentioned it before, but I don't know. I just feel like saying it again. So when I was, I guess, 14, 15, I loved Secret Wars, right? But then I reread it like many years into adulthood, and I won't say it was shit, but at the same time, it was clearly something that was thought up of for 10 to 15-year-olds. Like the whole draw is, all your favorite Marvel heroes in one series together, whatever. But it's I don't know. I just have to say it just did not hold up well when I reread it. Whereas when I read Crisis, have to say when I reread Crisis, I felt it still held up. It always felt epic to me. Even though it was not my favorite universe, Marvel was my favorite universe, but something about Crisis, I just felt epic. It really felt like these worlds were dying, and like it seems like the way it was drawn, it just really felt like these Earths were dying by this giant wave of this antimatter thing, and you'd see these people, these street scenes of buildings falling on Wildcat or whatever, and he's crippled, and I don't know. It just seemed really like it had a lot of the realism seemed a lot more there than with Secret Wars. That's all I want to say. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Secret Wars was no Secret Wars 2, to be fair, but it was okay.
Let's not even go there, Yeah. Oh my God, that's yeah. That's not even whatever. Did want to say that Tariq, that I believe you're right. I also, it's very vague for me, but I believe you're right. Sharon Ventura was the one who
that was her name.
Yeah, and then then she became the Rocky girl thing or whatever. Yes, I think Sue made a helmet for Ben back in FF3. Yeah, that's right. When he started off with a helmet. Yeah, but at least that didn't last long at the beginning. Bucket thing on Tinder, a sure thing. but Mark says, but Fred, comics today do suck. I'm not even touching that because this will be a whole episode on its own. I will say this in all seriousness, if you believe that, Mark, then I say you're not reading comics today. That's how I'll put that, because I believe there's a lot of good stuff happening today and a lot of shit stuff. But it's kind of like I was saying before. I believe we all love our main period where we were really the most in love with comics. And then when we kind of get out of it and we lose the love and we stop buying, collecting, whatever, everything else just seems like, whatever. And we kind of judge it unfairly without truly giving it a big chance, like a lot of a chance. I don't know. What do you think, Fred?
Well, and nothing is going to compare to reading Marvel team up with Spider-Man versus the Hulk and Wood God at 7 years old or 9 years old, right, as an adult, right? Like going to see Indiana Jones when you're an adolescent kid, you're not going to see most movies are not going to hold up to that as an adult because you've seen more life. You're a little more jaded and cynical, I gotta say the latest trailer for the new Indy movie has me a bit excited, but
really,
that said, it's we're in different stages of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely, and that totally makes a large difference. And that,
take out historical context and all the other factors involved.
There's so many unspoken factors that we could name if we really wanted to, right? Commodore Boston makes a good point, right? So it's kind of, he's sort of saying what I just finished saying, right? So he's totally biased, but the Marvel comics of the 60s were superb and still feel the same to me. That was his era, right? For me, when I first read them as back issues, I love them. I absolutely love them. Back issues, reprints and whatnot in the 80s. But where Comic Art Boston and I diverge on that thought is that, unlike what he says at the end of the sentence, where it still feels the same to him, I disagree. I will say that as much as I loved those stories, I can probably honestly say that I doubt I will ever again reread any Silver and Bronze Age comics. It feels, not that the stories aren't good. The stories are still good. But for me now, in this era that we currently live in, it feels very dated to me. The datedness of it, right? I don't think anybody can deny that they're dated. But yeah, so the dated aspect of it all, and like I said, I read a lot of my favorite stories many times anyways. So I'm at that stage where it's like, enough. I'm good. I don't have to reread them ever again as long as I live. Now, he's asking also, could the difference lie in part of the artwork? The easy answer is yes, in part. Absolutely. Absolutely. In the same way people, when I was growing up in the early 80s getting into comics, right? At my comic shop, I was fortunate enough to find one in 82 near me. And at that time, I mean, Kirby was so out of favor, like, right? Because the superstars at that time were Byrne and Perez. And when you look at the differences in artistic approaches between them and Kirby, right? I mean, that's a world of difference. So anybody at the store, other than older, the older crowd, who still, of course, revered Kirby, everybody else was just like, ugh, Kirby? I don't get it. Why does everybody talk about Kirby the King? Whatever. So I do think it's a much more sort of antiquated style of drawing. And that's why, I don't think it would work today. Like if somebody drew like that today, right? Like for the first time, just started drawing like that, I just don't think it works. It was a beautiful product of its time, is what I'll say. And so, yeah, I think that answers your question. I think in part, yeah, absolutely, the art has something to do with it. Nick says the Crisis was game changing. I think so. Secret Wars was popcorn flick, right? Both great in different ways, but yes, Crisis holds up better. Yeah, I absolutely think so. Rich says that Secret Wars needed to be drawn by Byrne or Perez to be seen more. I gotta say, I really believe, Rich, that of course, I think we would all have loved it if they had gotten one of those guys to do it. But if you think about it, it's not like they didn't get a superstar artist. Mike Zeck was still known as not Byrne Perez level, but the next tier, because he was already pretty famous for that Captain America run. He was already well known for that, and that he had a classic run on a classic character. So Zeck was already well known. And he was also known for doing cool covers. I think the problem was that because the deadline on that project was so ridiculous, because of the whole tie-in with the toys and all that crap, it ruined it because he was not a guy who could work that fast. And so it's some of the worst Zeck art, that's out there that he ever produced. He'll tell you that it's not his finest hour. That's the shame of it. Had he had time to do that the way he did, let's say, working with Bob McLeod, for instance, on the Craven saga, right? And if we got, or John Beatty on his Cap run, if we got that level of Mike Zeck, absolutely it would have looked a lot better. But I still think, in retrospect, looking at it back and rereading it as an adult, I think I was in my 40s when I reread it. I think I still have to say I probably don't think it would have held up. I just think it wasn't epic. I think it really did still feel more of, it's an excuse to put, your favorite Marvel characters together and sell some toys or whatever. I think that whole Beyonder thing made it silly, more for kids. I don't know. That's just my feeling.
One of my greatest disappointments came Secret Wars 2, the first issue, seeing that burn cover and going, oh man, I can't wait to.
Yeah. Oh!
and again, previews, right? So there was no warning. Like you throw down that money, you grab the book.
Yeah. Now I will say, I'm laughing because I could imagine your reaction.
Oh.
I have to say, I did know, because at that time, like, I loved hanging around the comic shop so much that the owner always, or owner, whatever, manager, or whatever, the guy who ran the place, they always let me look at the order forms. So even though, of course, the order forms in those days didn't have pictures, right? It was just text. I did know who was doing the interiors and who was doing the cover, so I knew what to expect. And but I could imagine, like, people who didn't know, and to see that hit the stands and, oh yeah, Burn, and then, oh shit.
Right.
Oh my God. Oh, and I'm sorry, poor Al. I'm so sorry, Al, but sorry.
Yeah,
Al.
No slight to Al.
No, not
just
your.
Very jarring.
Yeah, quite jarring.
And it was also Secret Wars 2.
Yeah, Mark, Secret Wars, and it's funny because I loved Contest of Champions. It was fun. Of course, they screwed up the whole story and whatever. They declared a winner even though it was a tie. So that was so screwed up. But certainly, as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, or whatever, it was a lot of fun. I'm pandering to Nick. See, this is an old comment about 9 minutes ago, so not sure what I pandered to. But
I thought you were pandering to me. And now I'm a little put off.
But Stanley, feel free to let me know what I pandered exactly. I'm not sure what I maybe when I was talking about his show or whatever. But I always do that. I always give him a plug on the show. So I don't know what you could be talking about if not that. Comic says to Rich, the fact that Perez drew Crisis made a significant difference to me. Yeah, he was just spot on for that series. But again, it was a culmination of incredible, right? The artist at DC who was at the top of his game, right? The top, like the guy at DC. I mean, doing the event, the seminal event. I mean, yeah, that totally makes a difference. But it wasn't just because of that. I really, having reread it as an adult, you know, it still felt like, wow, the scenes as they were happening, people dying, and even though they were like characters I was barely familiar with at all, really.
Wolfman's pinnacle project, and I think they gave Perez a lot of time to work on that book. I think he had quite a bit of time, and didn't it run late too?
I believe you're right. It's been so long though; it's always hard to remember these things, right? But yeah, Crisis makes Secret Wars 1 look like Secret Wars 2. And we got some agreeers here too. Yeah, Nick, the better Secret Wars was Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah, exactly. Though I haven't read that probably since, I think maybe, I don't even know if I ever reread it. I bought it in trade probably 20 some odd years ago. I don't know if I've ever reread it though, even though I bought it. So I don't know if it holds up. Part of me always is scared to reread things because it may not hold up and it's going to spoil my memory of it. You know, I don't know. How did you like Infinity Gauntlet, Fred? Or
I enjoyed it at the time.
Okay,
and
you never read
it probably when they announced that the films were coming out, and I enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first time. It was decent, but again, you know, when we step back from it and realize this was written, you know, 30 years ago,
right? And
so, you know, even Kirby, like, you know, we can look at Kirby stuff now and say whatever we want to say, but the course of illustration in comics was changed with his style. So, you know, it feels like we're reading something that might be boring, or we've seen it done, or it's derivative, but it came first.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty good about keeping that in mind when I'm reading that stuff.
For sure. I mean, like I always say, it's a context, right? Always remember context for everything, right? Nick makes a great point. Of course, it was the artist, but also the writing. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. It wasn't just that, oh yeah, you know, George is doing it, you know, which back in those days, you know, any fan of his, you know, we followed the artist and you'd follow them on whatever they did. But no, it was the writing too. It just the story and scope. The scope felt epic. It felt like I said, I don't know any better way to put it. It felt like some of these worlds were being chewed apart. It felt like I was watching almost like this sci-fi movie, and these worlds were dying, and people really were dying, and it felt real to me. It really felt epic.
Well, and the whole purpose of the series was to recreate the DC universe, right?
Right.
Clean it up. So I mean, there were consequences.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a pretty good point, TJ, too, right? That TJ says Crisis actually had impact, right? At least for a few years, and there was only one impact from Secret Wars, which is Venom.
Well, Ben Grimm being stuck on the planet for a couple of years.
Well, he wasn't stuck. He elected to stay, as I recall, right? Yeah. It was by choice. So
Ben Grimm, Space Ranger, or whatever they call him.
Yeah, but you know, I was like, what?
Yeah.
It was that reason that made me stop reading the Things comic. Right?
I think I stuck with it for just about the whole run. Yeah, it was torturous towards the end.
Okay. Yeah, I was just like, oh, come on. He's wearing, again, this is by memory, but I think it was like a tank top or shorts and a tank top.
Yeah.
It was just, what? It's not even the costume, and and now he's on his desolate planet. Like, I don't want to see. What is this? I don't want to see it month after month after. Oh man, no, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm quitting my thing collection. That's it, you know. So, but yeah, goes to show, Rubén, that you would agree to disagree. You have every right. Just have a look at the early run of ASM. As I said, I've read them multiple times as an adult in my adulthood, and yes, I'm not saying the stories are not good anymore. The stories are classic, but they still feel dated, very dated to me. They just feel dated. That's it. I can't, but again, of course we can disagree. If you don't feel they feel dated, then that's how you feel about it. Great. You can enjoy them more than I can because of that. So I think that's great. Neil Adams definitely raised the bar. Absolutely. And that is not true. I did not say I hated Kirby. I was saying the people at the store. I loved Kirby. I had an appreciation for him, but my appreciation was in the issues he had already done. Right? So for me, you got to remember, I'm coming in 82. There's no Kirby comics other than that Pacific stuff that he was doing, which, look, let's be honest. Okay, come on. Without Stan Lee, his imagination wasn't the greatest. Okay? The character designs, the character ideas were pretty bogus outside of Marvel for the most part. And then other than the PC stuff, he then did the superpowers or whatever, in 84. And of course, that was, the last few years of his life or whatever. Not great stuff. But I loved, through looking at back issues, I got to love and appreciate, my God, the Fantastic Four, Thor, all that stuff, but especially FF, So I'm definitely not a Kirby. I love Kirby. But does that mean I would want to see him doing comics today, surrounded by all the much more realistic approaches to comics in today's market? I just don't think it would fit in. But that's my opinion. We can all disagree or agree to disagree, Writes in Adams raised it and writes and broke it. That's a good way to put it. That's cool. Yeah, see, look at Carl. Carl says it took him years to appreciate Ditko. I appreciated it right away. And not only did I appreciate it, I loved it so much by reading reprints of Marvel Tales that when I heard that, Ditko's taking over ROM, I was so excited. I loved ROM. And super thrilled to have him until the end on that title, So now what are you going to argue with me again? Todd McFarlane was largely successful because, although he had his own style, it was very reminiscent of Ditko in a way, only modernized in a matter of speaking. That's a fair enough assessment. That's an interesting comment. Sure. Some quirky poses in different ways. Ditko's style was somehow so suited to Spider-Man. Yeah, exactly. Precisely. Everybody says that. There's something about Spider-Man. It just seemed to fit, Carl couldn't get into the most Golden Age books. Well, me too. Other than the main DC characters, most of that stuff is, most of the art from the Golden Age is pedestrian. There, I said it. I don't care if you're a fan and you love collecting them or speculating on CGC Golden Age, whatever. The artwork, for the most part, is pedestrian back in those days, and that's a fact. It's not just my opinion. Doctor Strange was good as well. Oh yeah, that's right, for Ditko, Doctor Strange. Oh, and the Creeper. Yeah, that's true. Ditko did that. Yes. Yeah. It wasn't just Spidey. We forget these titles, but I love that stuff too. I thought that stuff was really, really great. So, Nick saying Secret Wars 6 was the first book to become returnable. Wow, interesting. That's a funny thing to remember. Wow. Okay. Black Costume was supposed to be in issue 6, but was moved to 8. Okay, that meant retailers ordered a lot and needed to return them. That's funny. It's cool. Interesting bit of trivia to drop on us there, Nick. So Marvel Resolution was so significant. Yeah, it was for sure. Rich saying, I'm not saying Secret Wars is a great story by any means, but Perez and Byrne had a track record of drawing great team books. Of course, Zek was at his best in single characters books. Yeah, tight deadlines or not. No, it's a very true statement. I'm not definitely arguing with that. Secret Wars 2, Thundersword was so cool. I got to tell you, I guess this is how much Secret Wars 2 meant to me. I don't even know what you're talking about, Hart. Who the hell is Thundersword? Was there somebody actually called Thundersword in that? Because I don't remember it. Wow. I agree, Rich. Okay, yeah, not Zek's wheelhouse. Compare Secret Wars to Infinity Gauntlet. Well, we did earlier, and that's what we're saying. It's kind of like Nick said, Infinity Gauntlet was more of a better Secret Wars kind of thing, you know? Reading Secret Wars 2 gives Byrne Superman 11 more levels. Superman number 11. Okay. Fred's Crisis felt like it had a soundtrack by John Williams. Hey, that's a cool way to put it. Secret Wars felt like it was scored with a harmonica in a mouth, guitar in hand, and cymbals to the knees. I like that, Mark. You're on fire tonight, baby. Let me see. My strongest memory of the burned Superman era was the story of Soups and Big Barda making porn due to sleaze. That was a pretty funny one. And Comic Art Boston, the stories are dated. I'm not calling you dated. NorCal in the 80s. ASM is hella dated. Perfect. Touche, man. Touche. FF51, best Kirby art on Ben Grimm. That's a lot of people would agree. Having been said, I'm afraid that I have to check out now. Have a great night, Comic Art Boston. Thanks, as always, for the support and for the interaction. Really appreciate it. Have a good one. Let's see what else we got here. Everybody, good night. FF51, greater than Destroyer Duck. Oh, God, let's not even talk about that Pacific Comics stuff. Yeah. CJ, Thundersword, my name in college. You're an animal, CJ. Just got an Amazon Easter. So you guys do get deliveries on Sundays? Or is it only because it's for a special holiday?
Amazon and the Postal Service have a business relationship.
Okay.
And so they do deliveries on Sunday.
Oh, so it's okay. So
not
it's
regular mail.
Right. Only the deliveries that they do for Amazon.
Right. And maybe some select others, but it's not traditional.
Okay, I got you. Okay, cool. Well, good. Congrats, Mikhail. Nice Sunday Easter opening time. A gift time for you. So some of the books that came out of Secret Wars were better. The Thing story, Wolverine having Colossus fighting Juggernaut, and more. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. My memory, unfortunately, after rereading it, is not as positive as for some fans of Secret Wars, as you know. Yeah, so I'll just leave it there. Thundersword was this LA show writer that the Beyonder transformed into a night-style villain. Oh my God, I definitely don't remember that, and I think probably for the best. Kirby isn't necessarily the king because of the quality of his artwork. He essentially, his dynamism made him the king. That's what I think. He was so supremely dynamic. Because yes, everybody knows he had issues with, anatomy and things like that or whatever. But dynamic and exciting. So I'll give him. I'll always say that. Thank you, Carl, so much. Really appreciate it. Have a great dinner, man. Thank you. Appreciate it, and hopefully catch you next week. And you guys have Amazon Central. Trucks are everywhere. Okay, the Amazon Warriors never sleep. Cool. Thundersword, veiled reference to Steve Gerber getting superpowers from Beyonder and then thrashing his Hollywood workplace. Okay, God, I am happy. I never read. Yeah, remembered that, I should say. X-Men 184. Yeah, that's the Colossus. Is that the Colossus in the bar with Juggernaut? For sure. All right, TJ, have a good one, man. Appreciate you. And okay, so sounds good. So guys, let's segue back to the art because we've only shown one piece. And we got some more art to show everybody. Why don't we show a few more pieces from Fred's collection? And let's jump into this one, the one from which everybody wishes they had the Splash, and I once owned the Splash. I was the first person in the internet era to own the Splash. But all pages from this book are great. What do you got to say about this one, Fred?
Oh wow, one of my absolute favorite issues from my childhood. I'm always looking for pages from this issue.
Apparently, so are a few other Hulk fans.
Yeah, and that's something I'm very aware of. We know each other.
Yeah,
and we kind of discuss it amongst ourselves when they become available. But yeah, I absolutely love this. It was long before I even thought about getting into the field of therapy, but this issue has the Hulk being hypnotized by Doc Samson and going through his life, and is really the first time they get into him being abused as a kid.
Right.
And as a child, the book really resonated with me. It's beautifully drawn. It's got Jansen inks over Buscema.
Yeah.
And I would say, along with Joe Staten, it's probably my favorite inker over Sal's stuff.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Actually, this particular this particular page, somebody contacted me through CAF and responded to a post that I had. They're looking for it, and it was a guy. I believe he was a retired preacher, and he and his wife found this in a used like consignment shop, and it was glued to some sort of backing.
Oh wow!
But he had no idea what it was worth, and we talked and came up with a price. Told him a little bit about how art sales work, and showed him some comps, and so I added it to my collection. I think I have 3 pages from this book.
Oh, cool! That's quite a coup, because I mean, from what I remember, not that I've looked in recent years, but back in the day when I was hulking out myself on the artwork, I remember this was an issue that the pages just wouldn't come out. So I don't know how many have since come out, but my memory of it is that there weren't all that many pages in all that have ever hit the market from this issue. Do you know how many there are now?
There are I've got 3. I think one of the other guys has 4, and another guy has 3.
Okay.
And there's a reproduction that Sal did of the Splash that's out there as well. It just sold on Heritage. Several of them went to Heritage. A few of them, like I remember missing one on Facebook because somebody announced it, and I didn't see it right away, and it sold within minutes of it being posted. And
Okay.
this is probably 8 or 10 years ago.
Oh wow.
So, I don't have any aspirations to have the whole issue, but, I'm always looking. So if anybody has a lead on them, I'd appreciate it. Or if you own one and you want to trade or sell it, most things in my collection probably are talkable or potential for trades. I love that book.
And as always, I just want to make a reminder to everybody that the link to Fred's gallery is right below here below the description of this video, direct link. And also he's got 2 galleries. For those of you who don't know, Fred is also an art representative. And so the first link is for his collection. And the second link is for his, what he calls Super Pals. And that's the gallery that he uses for his art representation. Art for sale. So check that out. I'm going to show something related to that stuff soon anyways. But yeah, check that out. And actually, you should check out the links anyways, but especially the collection. You'll when you go to Fred's collection on CAF, you'll notice that he's got a few folders, but the bulk of his collection, he puts it into one folder. So it's a real mishmash of like whatever he's into. I think it's like 189 pieces or something, all in that one folder. So that's the bulk of his collection. So at least, if anything else, flip through that folder. It's really kick-ass stuff.
Yeah, the Ben Grimm poker game is there. I have, I believe it's Daredevil 27, the full issue of the original of the original art for that issue. Manuel Garcia did it, and I love that stuff. So I jumped on that.
Yeah, cool. Hey, Gektex, good to have you, man. I bought a Kevin McGuire Green Goblin sketch from Fred. Thanks again, man. There you go. Yeah.
Thanks. I ended up with 2 of them. I have a Vulture one as well, and I ended up really liking the Vulture one, and the Green Goblin one is nice, but it never really resonated with me. So when I was moving stuff around, I put it up. Thanks for buying it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoy it.
It's a nice day for a Jeff wedding. So you're in San Diego for the weekend. Are you hanging out with Mikhail? Is that what you're doing? Dropping in to say, hit that like button and we'll catch the rewind. Happy Easter to you too, my friend, and to Stacy as well. And thanks for coming in and saying hello and taking that time. Appreciate it. Okay, so yeah, let's move on to the next one. And yes, if anybody ever does have art, of course, from 227, Hall 227, hit him up, hit Fred up. And let me see. Nick says that Fred's a great guy who helps support Fact Jacks as well. There you go.
Good job.
There you go. And yeah, let's go to the next piece, everybody. For this one, you'll some of you who actually ever bothered to look when you get notified about my weekly episodes, and if you bother to look at the backgrounds that I use, this was used as the background for tonight's show with Fred. And it's just from a classic, beautiful Burn Gene Day an issue. And wow, what a piece, Fred.
Yeah, I love this page. And fortunately, I picked it up before everything was increasing already, but
yeah, exactly,
everything blew up. And I think I've had this page probably for 6 or 7 years. A big Burn fan. Again, Marvel team up stuff is some of my favorite stuff as a kid. And Gene Day's work over his pencils here were great. And I was always big about JJJ and Spidey going back and forth, and I always love that stuff. So
yeah, that's classic. If you're a Spidey fan, like, come on, like that's one of those classic Spidey tropes, right? JJ trying to tell off Spider-Man, and then basically Spider-Man telling him off afterwards, and making him look like an idiot. So that's classic.
And just Spidey needling him and knowing exactly what to say. It was just, as a kid, it was the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And not because it's a splash, but just the figure and the angle of the figure in that splash panel. I love that. It's so the way it feels like he's swinging up and he's gonna he might kick us if we're not careful,
Yeah, and if I'm remembering correctly, this was from the issue where Spidey saved John Jameson, Man-Wolf once again.
Oh, okay.
And so I think that this was, it was certainly a great wrap-up page, but I suspect it was as much to kind of return their relationship to what it was, because obviously Jonah would be thankful initially for that. But
right.
Yeah, I just Burn always makes me smile.
Yeah. And out of curiosity, do you know if that was like a auction purchase, a private purchase?
Oh yeah, it was Heritage, I believe.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Oh yeah. Even 6-7 years ago, that would have still been what was considered at the time pricey,
Yeah. Yeah.
Cheap by today's standards, but you know how that goes, right?
You were talking about buying a page or passing on a big page in 2000. When I first started spending money on original art, like significant money, more than $100 or $200 for a page, it was I don't know, 2007, 2008 or so. They had Heritage had a Superman Spider-Man double splash where Spidey was clobbering Superman.
Right.
And oh my God, I was dying for this page, and I'm bidding and I go up to crazy number, right? I go up to $5,000, like probably 5 times more than I'd ever spent on a page.
Right.
And the guy, I was the underbidder. And I was kicking myself for it, but then like a year or two later, I was kicking myself more. And now I wouldn't be surprised if that's $120,000 page.
Right.
It's killing me.
But you know how these things go, right?
But yeah, I get it. But this specific page was just a beauty.
I know, I get it. But that, it should serve as a lesson. Sometimes when you feel that strongly about it, so the advice that I often give is there are times when you have to, quote unquote, break the bank.
Yeah. My bank was pretty small, and while I could have afforded it, I was still in the infancy of my collecting. So
I get it.
It's one of those memories.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes we all have good and bad memories about it, right? About the hobby, right? So we all have the ones that got away, and the ones we wish we had, the ones we wish we hadn't sold.
Right.
It's all part of it, and it makes us who we are, and it makes for good stories later.
Oh yeah, and it's ultimately it's art, so I'm not losing sleep over it, but every once in a while it needles you a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
As it resurface, I'm not sure that I've seen it since. That doesn't mean it hasn't popped up, but again, at this point, that would be a significant amount of money in it. As much as I love that book, I'm not sure that I would even chase something like
Bother
that.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right, everybody. Good one. Let's, oh, thanks, honey. Have a good night. See you. Oops, sorry. There you go. Have a wonderful read while I continue my show. I'll see you later. Does Fred or Ruben have any more stories of regrets? I mean, I'm not going to get into that because we have more art to show, other than to say, I don't know. Like, I will say, and I've said this in the past, so this is the only reason I'll say it, because I've said it before. I'm not somebody who typically has regrets in life. Life is too short to regret things. Okay, regret is a strong word. And I know that you're typically talking about artwork related, but even with artwork, I have what I would call, like, sometimes I'll think of things that I used to own, or, remember, right? Like I was a collector, but also a dealer simultaneously. So sometimes I'll think about something that I had and, like, oh man, I wish I had that now. But then I remind myself, yeah, but that was at the time, part of my dealer inventory. So it had to go. You know what I mean? So it's not realistic to think, oh, I should have kept it. Well, no, because if I really felt that way, I would have never put it into inventory. I would have bought it specifically at that time for myself, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't really regret. I just say, sometimes there's that piece where, oh, I would like to have it. It would be nice if I could still have that today. But I don't personally feel that it's to the extent where I say, oh, regret. Like, it's, there's more important things in life to me than for me to start saying that I regret everything, every piece that I wish I still had. Like, regret's kind of strong, but that's my view. How do you handle that?
I kind of feel the same way about regret. I mean, there's no way to change it. So why would you put a lot of extra energy into it? I passed on the Batman Hulk Treasury Edition cover that went up for auction.
Wow.
Just because it got up to a point, it went about $8,000 past what I told myself would be not responsible.
Right.
So is that a regret? Well, I mean, I was disappointed at not getting it, but it could have, from what I understand, the person that won it would have gone to twice what he paid for it. So I don't know that you can call that regret. I had a copy of Amazing Fantasy 15 that I got signed by Stan and Slabbed.
Okay.
It was a 5.0. And when I moved down here and moved in with the woman who I ended up marrying, I'm pretty fiscally conservative. So I wanted a nest egg because I wanted to make sure that we were good. Yeah. And so I ended up selling it. Now, I sold it for twice what I paid for it, right, which at the time, I sold it for like 17 minus fees, right, 17,000 minus fees.
Right.
And I winced as I was doing it and almost backed out, but said, okay, I gave my word. So I sold it. It's over $100,000 book now, 130. Probably.
Yeah, for sure.
But a regret. I mean, I did it because I chose to do it, and
right.
I can't get in my DeLorean. So what's the point of
exactly
gnashing my teeth about it? There are plenty of pieces that I've held on to, right? There are plenty.
Yeah.
I'm lucky.
Yeah. I've told the story before of I owned a Hulk 1 in probably tight, very fine. This is way before the professional grading years, 1990, I sell it at a local convention, like a tight VF, right? I sell it at the local convention, and I sell it for $500. In near mint guide, it was not even 1,000 yet. Sold it for 500. Take the 500 and use that money to buy all the different wax boxes of my favorite sports cards, so I can try to make a sport card set, of which almost 30 years later I took and dumped off my balcony into the recycle bin. So people say, oh, don't you regret that? And it's like, no, because at the time I was a lifelong baseball lover. I loved the act of truly collecting sports baseball cards, like making my own sets by opening packs after pack after pack, right? the act of that to me was super fun. And that gave me the money to do that.
Yeah.
So, I think that what it is again, it's about what we were saying earlier. It's context, right? The people who say, don't you regret? It's because they're thinking, oh, Hulk #1 in a tight VF right now, that's worth 150,000 or whatever. That's they're coming in from that angle. And it's like, well, that's not realistic to think about. This was 30 whatever years ago. And what I always like to say also is keep in mind, even if that day at the convention hadn't happened, let's be realistic. What are the odds that I would still have that book today? No. If I didn't sell it at that con, I would have sold it at some point down the road anyways, right?
Right.
Yeah, I would not have held on to it until it was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I mean, ultimately, it comes down to its stuff.
It's stuff, exactly.
We become slaves to our belongings.
Yes.
Ultimately, it's a hobby, and it's a hobby that's been fun and it's been costly, but it's also generated some income at times, and that's never been the primary focus anyway. So you shrug it off and you look for the next gem and you move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, Mark. But Paul Anka, yes, you corrected yourself. Paul Anka, the Canadian, but Old Blue Eyes made it famous. So you can't fault people. You can't fault people for always saying Sinatra on that one. Just an FYI. There are pieces I remember all my life. The prices have changed. Some for money, not for better. Some have sold, and some remain. What song is that? Hold on.
It's the Beatles.
I know, but which song is it? Because I'm not getting.
As I remember all my life.
Melody's not coming though.
Yeah, well, that's because I was singing it.
No. Oh yeah. There you go, Beatles. Yeah. Good one, Marcus. Good stuff. Always love the musical references.
In my life, I've loved them all.
Yeah. There we go. You guys are on point with the music tonight, man. That's good. All these pieces have their moments with artists and friends.
He's still going.
He's still going. If you find yourself in times of trouble, he's continuing. Some are dead. Okay. Some are still drawing in my collection. I love them all. All right. The Trader and the Odds Maker. That's it, baby. Woo! And hey, thank you again, as always, Nick, for rallying the likes. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, for getting me to 40. That's really awesome. And keep it going. I'll catch you on the rewind. I appreciate it, Jason.
Take care, Jason.
Have a good one, buddy. And talk to you soon. And no regrets. Bid my max, and if I lose, I lose. That's all you could do. Yeah, there you go, Caesar. Caesar.
Way to look at it.
That's the way to do it, man. That's the way to do it.
There's a difference between disappointment and regret.
Absolutely. Huge. Like they say, once you decide mentally to sell, you consider it gone. Yeah, exactly. You prepare yourself, and once you're ready, as long as you get the price you wanted at that time, there should be no room for regret, right? And Celticon, you wouldn't have sold the next chance you get. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Words of wisdom. I don't know which ones, but Maki Pupu, you're probably following along with the musical theme. And of course, Ian finishes it off with "Let It Be." All right, guys, let's look at the next.
Let that be.
Let's look at the next piece. Okay, so guys, this one, beautiful. So this is from one of the artists that probably potentially certainly one of my favorite contemporary artists, and it's one that who Fred represents. Check this out. And for this one, guys, you can't see the detail.
Oh,
Fred, you don't know. There's way too many. There's no way you could. Oh, maybe you, because I said it's from your collection.
I think I know. Double splash.
Yeah. There you go, guys. Please use that link I put in the description below to go into Fred's gallery and look at this one at full size. Oh God, the inking is sublime, so beautiful. And look at all that circus stuff from Dick Grayson's time in the circus, and amazing.
The level of detail on this is amazing. And Paulo worked with Eddie very briefly, but and now he's penciling his stuff, of course, and he's amazing. But the amount of detail and how true to Eddie's pencils he was. I loved his stuff on this, and I just met Eddie And I bought this piece from him in New York, and I was amazed at the price. And the big part of it was there's no Robin, obviously, but
Right.
the pathos, the return to Haley's Circus, it's one of the most beautiful pieces in my collection.
It's fantastic.
And the scan doesn't do it justice. You can go on the website, but seeing it in hand is amazing. And if you blow it up in the CAF gallery, you can take a look, and it's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying I don't put it. I don't take it lightly when I say that Eddie, absolutely one of my absolute like favorites in the from the contemporary comics. Oh, beautiful, love his stuff. And this piece, you guys got to go check it out in his gallery, because it's really worth the time to go in there and look at it. Oh, the Siqueira, beautiful, the way he inked it. Oh, yeah, there's nothing else to say, but go check it out, guys, in Fred's gallery. It's so
The cool thing about Eddie's stuff too is that since he started at DC, he's really worked on evolving as an artist. His style has changed multiple times, and he continues to grow and kind of tweak his style depending on the book and what he's going through artistically. So that's been really neat to see.
Yeah. Well, no, that's it. That's what you want to see from guys. Growth, right? Artistic growth, right? That's
I mean, he was using Copic markers a lot for a while on his Batman stuff, and everybody loved that. And he still uses it, but not nearly as much as he was.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, that's what happens oftentimes with guys who are experiencing growth and wanting to grow as artists, right? They will experiment with different tools, right? And they'll stick with a certain type of tool they like for a little while, but then they're like, oh, I like it, but like, let me try something different, a different approach, a different tool, whatever the case may be, right? And you just kind of move on, right?
Yeah. I mean, between him and Kyle Higgins, that New 52 run was the best that Nightwing's been since.
Oh, really?
Well into the Dixon run.
Oh, cool.
At least in my opinion, I thought it was really great stuff. And then editorial directives came in and kind of knocked him around a little bit.
Well, I might as well throw in though. A lot of my friends have been telling me that the current run by, is it Tom Taylor? I believe Tom.
Yeah, it's really good.
Everybody, like a lot of my friends are like, "Oh my God, you got to read that! It's so good." Yeah, so good, interesting to know. Okay, guys, from there, I also thought I would show because Fred does rep Eddie, and Fred, you just I want to be absolutely sure because I wasn't positive. You also represent Andrea De Vito.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you also, do you represent Eber Ferreira?
Eber.
Sorry, I'm trying to say. I always try to say it the Portuguese way.
Well, with his art sales, yes, but they're repped by Chiaroscuro.
Chiaroscuro. Oh,
as far as their work with DC. Eddie, Joe Prado left that studio, so I'm not sure at this moment. Yeah,
I thought, was I under a mistaken impression? I was under the impression that Joe owned and started it.
He did.
Oh,
he co-owned it. Yeah, and he's got his own art rep service now, so they've actually left with him now that I'm thinking about it. And that was over the past year that's happened.
Oh, I see.
But I rep them for art sales. Andrea's largely digital at this point, unfortunately. Right. So those sales are limited.
But if you're representing them for art sales, what exactly does Joe do for them on the?
He works with DC and other companies to get them lined up with gigs.
I was going to say, right? So like the old school agent style, where you try to get professional gigs for them.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he has nothing to do with the original art side of things.
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, and it's funny because, I'm sure you've heard it too, over the years there, you have positive experiences with reps, you have negative experiences with reps, and as with everything, everybody's got an opinion, right?
Yeah,
We're experts in what's going on in the Ukraine one week, and then in weather balloons in the next week,
yeah,
and everybody knows everything. But one of the criticisms of art sales is that artists don't need reps, and reps just take extra money and inflate prices. But
right,
Eddie's one of those guys. He's a brilliant artist, but he's not necessarily organized for sales. He doesn't think about it. He doesn't want to think about it.
right.
And so, or even the relationships with DC editorial. And so I think that Joe and I both allow for some grounding opportunities that would otherwise potentially be challenging for him.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm sure you find yourself in the same thing. There are plenty of artists out there who don't need reps, and that's great. I mean, one that comes to mind, Adam Hughes and Allison Son, right? Like
right.
they're on top of that. They've got the business mindset. They're savvy. They're good with people, and that's great. But having that for people either who don't have those skills or dispositions or even interests.
Right. I was going to say, especially just the overall, the wherewithal, right? Just like the desire, right? Like
Right.
Who wants to, most artists want to be creative. They don't want to be packing artwork, right? That's just, whatever. Like, don't.
Well, or even somebody like, Ivan Heiss, right? Like he doesn't, he's got so many requests that would be a full-time job.
Right. Exactly. Right. It's just, you don't got time to deal with that stuff. Right. Exactly. So very well. So, guys, having said that, this ties in now to the second link I've got down in the description below for Fred, his Super Pals gallery. I thought I would show, instead of showing something from there, because I feel like, to be fair, I've never shown art on any of my episodes that was available for sale, because I don't want to be, I don't want to start being accused of you're shilling for this guy or that guy or whatever. So what I did was I made a slide of a couple of pages that Fred sold to me, and Fred was lovely to work with, of course, and great art. Always wanted an example from him. So Eddie with Aber, and 2 consecutive pages. I still have not read Task Force Z because I don't like hardcovers. They released it as a hardcover. I don't buy floppies, as you guys know. So I'm just patiently waiting till they release it as a trade. Really, I knew nothing about this. I hadn't heard of Task Force Z until Fred started posting all the art from it, and it blew my mind. I was just like, oh man, Eddie Barrows does it again and again. I gotta say, Fajeda, he's, to me, it's the team supreme. He inks Eddie better than Eddie can ink himself. So just gorgeous stuff. And that's why I'm saying, for you guys, if you like, if you like this type of art, don't hesitate to use the link below to go to the Super Pals gallery, because there's like boatloads of stuff, and it's very, very fairly priced. A lot of it, I even was surprised. Like I considered it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cheap. It seems cheap. So you can get a lot of beautiful art for very fair prices. It's I would say, not only is Eddie one of my favorite, I would say Eddie and Aber together as a team, one of my favorite teams in comics today. I would fairly say that in terms of their original art, I think I could make the argument that they provide the best bang for your buck in terms of the quality of art you will get for the amount of dollars that page will cost you. And I'm not saying that to blow smoke. And let me show this one just in case. I know you guys like to see also the color versions. So that's what it looks like in color. And let me go back and forth a little bit here.
They draw really cool dead guys.
They honestly, they draw really cool everything. I'm not saying this just because Fred is here tonight as my guest. Literally, I've been a fan of that team for like a long time. But it's those are the only 2 pages I own. And that's simply because, as you guys know, I'm a focused guy with my Tom Grummett, my Perkins, and I'm trying to not spend money on anything else, even though I sometimes do, which is why I decided to splurge on those 2 pages. But yeah, if you guys like that art, if you like Eddie's art, man, you really got to check out that gallery, because it's beautiful and super affordable. So
we're actually. I just received a package from them this week of Black Adam number 9 pages.
Okay.
So those will be going up in the next week or 2.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, brilliantly detailed. It really is beautiful. Dynamite inks and panel work. Yeah, absolutely.
Watch out, Nick's in the room.
So
dynamite.
All right, everybody. So let's go to the next one, and that will be Jonah Hex, number 54. As I always say, I love Westerns. I love Jonah Hex. I love Tony DeZuniga's art. And so I figured I had to pick this.
Yeah, I saw this and loved it immediately. And the textures of the backgrounds, I just thought it was brilliant. And
yeah, gorgeous.
And on top of all that, it was an absolute, I think it was a steal, if I'm remembering correctly. But it just really resonated. And I love this character. So
yeah, me too. Like you say, I that middle panel with all the different textures for all the rocks, the side of the cliff, all that rocky texture. Oh my God, it's just superb stuff, man.
Well, and it's so delineated with the black and whites too. That some of that's lost, I think, with the coloring.
Oh yeah. Oh no. The coloring is hideous. Let's just put it out there. It's absolutely hideous. But in all fairness, I know they were only working with the 4-color process, whatever. But
right.
It makes you think. Like when I look at it, and I'm like, I look at those last 2 panels, and I'm like, okay, second to last panel. Jesus, really? The best you could do is just a green color fill for the ground, and then in the next one, okay, you diagonally split the panel with a black background. That's okay because you make the 2 figures pop. But then there's light pink, whatever that is, that their guns are on top. Like it's just hideous. It's just, honestly, look at it in black and white, everybody, and you'll have a better time. Let's put it that way,
Well, and we were talking earlier about how fond I am of the Jonah Hex stuff, and that you like Westerns. Best way to read that stuff, others have argued with me about it, but go back and collect Jonah Hex Showcase Volume 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It has the best of Louis Dominguez, Jose's stuff, and some DeZuniga. So and it's all black and white. It looks awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got those myself. It had to be colored one way or the other. No, I get it. Come on. Like we all know, right? We know it had to be, and that's how it was done in those days. I'm just saying, we have the added benefit of hindsight as art collectors to see what a difference it now made. Because back in those days, in the early 80s, or whenever you were buying comics for the first time, that's all we knew. We knew 4-color comics, and so that looked good to us. But as art collectors, and with the benefit of hindsight, and we look back, knowing what a difference it makes to the line art when you remove the color, and you realize, oh my God, how much line art was hidden away by crappy coloring, and let's not forget crappy printing as well. That's to be fair too, So yeah, it bears mentioning. Okay, cool. Let us see the next one, and that one is we're gonna jump forward to the modern era, guys. Tell me about this one. One of my favorite, an artist who started as an inker, whose work I despised. Nothing personal to him. It wasn't a personal thing. It was, I hated almost everybody's inks. He started in the early 90s. So I hated most of those inkers in those days. But he has become a truly complete artist now. And what an artist he has become. And I reached out to him just to tell him what I just told you guys. I wasn't shy. I told him. And he appreciated it. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, Dan Panosian. Wow, what an incredible artist he has become. Truly an artiste. Not no longer an inker. a wonderful artist, right? Penciler, inker, both, and just his own artist. Yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing.
Yeah. Well, and again, Dan was one of those early image guys that, some people would refer to as an image clone. He had a house, he was part of the house style, and
Yeah.
and his stuff was good, but it really kind of echoed a lot of the other stuff at the time. He's really grown into something completely unrecognizable from that. And again, not disparaging towards what he previously was, but stuff like this is typical for him now, and it's just so detailed. The gentleness of his touch. I mean, I almost sound like I'm in love with him. You look at his lines, his pencils, and his inks, and it's so rich and flush.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. I don't even know what else to say, but I love this guy now. I love the work he's been putting out over the last several years. Man, he's brilliant. So really, really love it.
I was lucky.
Yeah, beautiful piece, man. Marcus, so you're asking, would you rather see the reprints remastered? I mean, I'm hoping you're saying that as a serious question, and I guess you are. I mean, look, the truth is what I can say is I feel like as a guy who only reads, over the last 20 years, who's only been reading through buying trade paperbacks and collections, right? I do have to say that one of the biggest disappointment of spending the money on a trade, right, and of reprints from the 80s or earlier, is opening it and seeing that they did nothing with the color, like nothing. To me, especially since most of the time it's printed on bright white paper, it makes it look even worse, like literally worse than that. I'd rather look at the newsprint version, the original version. So I would say yes. I would say yes to that question. The only thing is that I know it's not even realistic, even if I want it. It's not realistic. The companies, it's just the business doesn't make enough money for them to spend the money to pay a top-notch colorist to remaster and do that or whatever. It's just the way the business is. But yeah, I definitely wish that, man. Yeah, you need to see him on a mainstream comic. Yeah, unfortunately, he's not. He doesn't. He's not like a monthly comic guy. But he really is amazing. Okay, guys, let us go a little bit back into the past from here and jump around a bit and see this, because I love. Earlier I put this one because not only do I love John and Klaus, but we earlier with the Hulk piece had Sal and Klaus. So I figured let's give an example of his brother with Klaus, both of which I love, man. And this is a terrific one.
I got to say, I really appreciate you taking the time and tracking down the colorized versions. It's really nice to see the comparisons beside each other.
My pleasure.
This actually, I stumbled into. It was good fortune. It was well timed. It was at a time where I was in my last week in my house. My wife and I were separating, and this popped up. I think it was listed in one of the groups on Facebook.
Okay.
And I reached out to the guy and closed the deal pretty quickly and just was amazed. I actually had a Conan page by John, and it wasn't a great page, but it was okay. And I gave it to Eddie years ago when I first met him because he was a huge John B. fan.
Oh, okay.
And since then, I've wanted to replace it, and I thought, well, this would be a nice way to spoil myself and distract myself. So. Yeah, I was thrilled to get this. So much about it.
It's spectacular, and I'm not particularly a Tarzan fan by any means, but who cares? It's one of those things where it's just a great imagery, fantastic penciling, fantastic inking.
Yeah.
I mean, you picked up a beauty with this one, man, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's stunning, and his Tarzan work was really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And from there, I mixed it up. We're jumping back to much more contemporary times. Although younger people might call this, it's got some age to it, but it looks to me, it's still super contemporary. But yeah, I think 2005, I think, one of my favorite characters who we saw earlier. I love that.
Yeah, this was when I reached out to Andre. I originally reached out to him to talk to him about doing a commission for me for a poker game, but also, was curious about pages that he had, and he's holding on to his Thing #1 cover, which
Oh,
has been in his son's room on his wall since he was a
uh,
baby. So
okay.
that wasn't available. But yeah, his all of this stuff, and I hadn't really thought about it much since the series was published. Loved the series; it was a lot of fun and it was beautiful. But it was all pencil work, and it was reproduced from the pencils alone. There are no inks on it, and I really think it makes it pop.
Yeah. I mean, oh no, yeah, it's stunning. I love it. I've always said, a lot of people say the same thing. Of course, I'm not the only one. That there's there's not that many art. Like I feel like there's the amount of artists who do what I call a proper thing
Yes.
are few and far between. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like you know what I mean? And he's
Yeah.
one of them, man. He's yeah. That's just gorgeous.
Yeah, I would agree. Him, Paul Pelletier, who you may have another piece
Yes.
for him.
I,
They're two guys that really captured it, and he's one of my favorite Marvel characters. So Andreas held on to most of his stuff from that series because he loved it so much.
oh,
But
really?
there might
Okay.
be more of that coming eventually.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, beautiful. And I just also want to add, I was always because I grew up loving the Hulk. I love the Constrictor. He was also an original baddie that I loved as well. So for me, it's fun to see him in the background there.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the other dude? Is that Nighthawk?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Like
Defender's character.
the guy who was from the Defenders? Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
sure.
Well, the funny thing is, it's not a regret, but I had the splash page from a Bronze Age Sal Buscema Hulk with Sam Wilson looking at a Hulk poster and the Constrictors coming from the background.
Because I used to own that.
Okay, yeah, maybe I bought it from you years
Maybe
ago.
you bought it for me back then. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember. It was one of the few times where I've sold art to raise funds, and that was one of the pieces.
Okay.
So yeah, I love that page.
Yeah, I not only own that page, I also used to own the cover to 212. So his first appearance.
Yeah. It was a beautiful page and great. I mean, great image of the Hulk too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. CJ says powerful. Yeah. And oh yeah, I'd hold on to my thing. Of course you will. You're always holding on to your thing.
Just don't ask anybody else to hold on to it.
That's right. Alrighty, and the next one is one of my favorite artists of the last 35 years, and one of the many Daredevil. Here's another character that throughout history you could point to so many eras with. Oh, that was a great run. That was a great run. That was a great run. Let's look at this.
Yeah, I figured that was it.
Yeah, this is classic. Oh, Lee Weeks and Williamson inking and the whole thing about, if it's not Daredevil's downfall, it's the Kingpin, right? Or, man, I love this stuff. Yeah. Have you owned this one a long time?
What's that?
Have you owned this one a long time? I don't remember.
Yeah, Lee sold it to me. It was probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not that long, given that how the fact that it's from 1991, the fact that Lee still owned it at the time, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he only more recently really started organizing all of his original art, and he would take stuff to shows, but this was in his portfolio for years. And every time I'd see him at a convention, he would have this freaking page in his portfolio, and I'd say, "Oh, I'd love to have this page. It really resonates with me. I want to hang it in my counseling office. It's a great message." And, he kind of hems and haws, and he's another guy, Essential Sequential reps him. He's another guy that benefits from having a rep because it's painful for him to sell his art.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was chasing this. I probably asked him, 10 times inside of 5 years.
Wow.
And never wanted to sell it. And then he called me one day and he said, "Hey, are you still interested in buying it?" And I said, sure. And he said, well, I'll sell it to you as long as if you ever decide you want to sell it, you call me and offer it to me first. So,
so was that Lee or was that Jason?
That was Lee. That was before he was connected with Jason.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Yeah, he lives about 10 minutes from me.
Oh, who, Lee?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. That's a nice coincidence.
Yeah.
Really neat. Very neat. Yeah, that's beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, I love that page.
He priced his stuff high back in the night. Is that true? Because Marcus, I got to tell you, my memory of the way I think of Lee and his prices was that he was actually dirt cheap. This is how I remember it. So maybe, I don't know. We have different experiences, so I don't know how to explain this. But I can tell you that I remember it, and let me come back to you so I can see you. I remember it as Lee stuff was, I don't know, cheap, affordable, or just fairly priced, whatever you want to call it. Not expensive. So let's put it that way. I didn't find it expensive at all. And then one day, and I was still a Hulk collector at the time. One day, I think somebody got in his ear, talked to him, and told him, "You're underselling your art." And overnight, his art just he blasted the prices skyward. I think this was 03 or 04. I got in touch because I wanted to. He was doing covers on the Hulk run, and at the time, and I wanted to get the one that had a Wolverine on it. And I checked in, and I remember him quoting me, and I was like, "What?" Well, I didn't say that to Lee, of course, but I was like, "Oh man, that's a lot more money than he's previously ever asked." And then when I asked about a few other pieces, everything was what I felt was super high all of a sudden. So it looks like he was trying to make up for lost time. So Marcus, that's how I remember it. So it's kind of weird to hear you say that you remember him pricing it high back in the 90s, but I'll take your word for it. You know?
I wasn't in the game back in the 90s, but the first few times I met him, early 2000s, and in 2000, even up to 2010, and I ended up getting some nice pages from him, probably for $200 a piece. I bought a Spider-Man Juggernaut splash page from him where he had laid the Juggernaut out. I mean, it felt like a lot of money because I wasn't spending that kind of money at the time.
Right.
But certainly prices have caught up, and his stuff through Essentials much more expensive than he had it priced previously.
Oh no, yeah.
And people are buying it. I mean, as you say, I would agree with you. He's definitely one of my favorite artists from the last 35 years.
Yeah.
That Daredevil run was great. His Hulk stuff. I mean, he just brings characters to life. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Marcus. Man, I appreciate it. Like I said, we who knows how these things work, but I think an explanation to our discrepancy between our experiences, it might be because of the fact that I remember Lee as the kind of guy who, again, he went through the Kubert school, and all the guys that went through the Kubert school, not only did they learn from Joe Kubert in terms of how to draw, but they seem to all have picked up this, or a lot of them picked up this penchant for like appreciating their own art and the value that it should have.
Yeah.
And which explains why Joe and his sons didn't sell their art for many, many, many years, decades, And so Lee was one of those guys. And I think that explains it. It's probably, I can see how back in the days where other guys were selling covers for $250, that he was selling it for or asking $600. See, that's the tricky thing. I believe back in those days, he probably was doing that. If you saw that, I believe it. But I'll bet you he, other than maybe some exceptions, he probably was not selling very much at those prices. And he seems like that kind of guy who he always wanted to try to get a better price for stuff. But then when he would see nobody was biting and he kind of would need some money, okay, he would let it go at more regular prices, So I think that's kind of what explains our the discrepancies between our experiences. So, but yeah, thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Yes, everybody. I don't know what we're at now because I can't see them through the software, but I appreciate all of you for hitting that thumbs up. Please do it if you haven't done it already. Thank you, especially those of you on Rewind, as I asked you earlier. Please, you guys never do it. Please, when you finish watching, just hit that thumbs up icon. Thank you. Appreciate it. before we wrap up, Fred, I just wanted to ask you, because I should ask everybody this, and I always forget, actually. Do you have, thanks, CJ, appreciate it. Come on, get me 2 or 3 more so we go over 40 at least. Do you have what, by my definition, is the Holy Grail or a Holy Grail? I don't want to hear about, do you have any grails in your collection? Do you have a bunch of grails? The Holy Grail. Do you have the Holy Grail? Something that to you is the Holy Grail.
A singular Holy Grail?
Yes.
If I had a Ross Andrew Amazing Spidey cover in my collection, that would be a grail.
Oh, okay.
If I had won that Hulk Batman, that would have been a grail.
Okay.
In my collection, do I have a grail? I have a lot of pieces that I absolutely adore. I would say no, I don't have a grail.
Okay, well that's perfect, because the reason I ask, I mean, besides the fact that I'm actually genuinely curious, but also because as I was going through your gallery, I came upon this piece where you mentioned that this was your Holy Grail.
Oh wow!
And I and I figured, it might be one of those things where he gets caught up while he's writing the description. But I thought it'll be fun to show. And here,
how long ago did I post it?
I don't even remember that. Yeah, I don't remember that. But here, let's check it out so we'll see what it is. But now that you mentioned what you mentioned after I asked you the question, at least I understand.
Okay.
Okay, because at least it's Ross Andrew.
I think this was probably the first Ross Andrew page I bought.
Okay.
Or one of the first. Yeah. It might be the first.
Okay.
Probably probably in the top 3 favorite Spidey stories from the Amazing run he did. Dr. Faustus, I was absolutely enamored with. And this was also at a time before I was buying, before I had the number of pages I have. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I thought the action sequence, and I don't know if I counted the number of Spidey figures.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I just Frank's inks over Ross's stuff is probably my favorite. Esposito was great, but I probably lean towards Frank as my favorite over his stuff. It softened him up a little bit. And so it doesn't surprise me. I would have said Grail for this. And again, I think I've probably had it, I don't know, 10, 12 years, maybe.
Okay.
12 years. Have to look on CAF to know.
Yeah. I mean, it's a spectacular page either way, right? What an example. If you wanted to get a
good catch.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought it'd be fun, and if you think that's fun, Here. First of all, before I go ahead, can you answer?
How many more grails did I post?
No, it's not that. Do you know Andrew? Because I feel like it's true that Andrew was an interior guy, but there was always somebody else doing the covers, right?
You're probably right. Let's change that to an Andrew splash, or maybe a Superman Spider-Man page.
Yeah. Either way. I mean, if he did
would have to be. I mean, this is wonderful, and I love this page.
But CJ also says that your Andrew splash is sweet.
Yeah. That wouldn't be I probably like this page more than I like that Andrew splash.
Oh, there you go. No, and that's why. See, I could have taken the easy way out and I'll put a splash, but anybody can put covers and splashes, whatever. I like to see kick-ass panel pages,
Yeah, this is a great page.
Yeah,
but it's no Grail. You're right. I'm a liar. I have to change my write-up.
Well, you see what though? So this is what I wanted to show you, Fred. So because I wasn't sure if you truly felt this was your Holy Grail.
Okay.
As you can see, I put the question mark with the Holy Grail. Okay.
Right.
But I thought, you know what? What if he tells me, yes, absolutely, this is it, the Holy Grail. So in case of that, I did this.
Nice.
So there you go. But we'll leave it on this.
I mean, I can't even say it's an unholy grail, because a grail is a grail, right? So it's not It's not a grail. It's a keeper. At the time, it would have been a grail because of my limited comprehension of what I would own. I probably at the time didn't anticipate owning either another page or having access to it. How's that?
Right. No,
I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, listen, whatever. I'm not doing what Stanley is accusing me of with the gotcha journalism.
You exposed me.
I exposed you, exactly. Liar. Yeah. No, but I thought it would be fun, And,
yeah, that is fun.
Yeah, might as well, right? I do like to know when people have, and more and more I do find out as I have private conversations with people, and more I feel like I hear more and more people tell me, no, I never really had the one, So I'm like, oh, okay. So,
and it is so overused now, right?
Well, but this is why I'm asking, because of the fact that I always harp about that. Like, everybody uses the term grail,
right?
And you never hear people say the Holy Grail, which is totally different, because grail, because with grail, you're just saying, oh, it's another really cool piece I love.
Uh-huh.
Whereas,
I see grail is like the number one. It's either a grail or
no, because
what if you're agnostic?
No, but listen, don't you hear? Come on, you hear tons of collectors constantly saying, "Oh yeah, that would be a grail for me. That would be a grail for me. Oh, I have this grail. I've got a few grails." Everybody uses the word as if it's just a cool piece. It's like another one of many really cool pieces that they love. Whereas when you put the word holy, especially the Holy Grail, that should signify it's the one and only. The one where you like lift it up to the light, and you hear the angels, the Holy Grail. And then everybody else is, when they say, oh yeah, that's a grail. That's a grail. It's kind of like the equivalent of, that's a cool piece. Oh yeah, that's a great piece. That's a cool piece. It's just a synonymous with cool or great or whatever. But
yeah, a grail would be something that if I went through my collection, I would find maybe 3 or 4 pages I couldn't see myself ever selling.
Right.
That would be a grail. But a Holy Grail is something that I would put under glass and wouldn't let anybody near.
It should be more than, like you just said, more than like a grail. You could have 3 or 4. Because you can't really make up your mind if you love one more than the other. But when you know that there is one that would be more meaningful to you than any other piece in the world,
then you genuflect every time you walk by it.
Yes. Then that's my Holy Grail. You know what I mean?
Do you have a Holy Grail?
I do. It's in my calf gallery. It's the Hulk 272 cover. The first comic I ever bought with my own money.
Okay.
So that was the day I discovered a comic shop near me for the first time. I stepped in. I was like, whoa. And it was kind of, again, the light came on, and
that's great.
It changed my life. You know what I mean? That day. And I had a little bit of money, and I got to buy a comic. And I bought Hulk 272. It was the latest issue on the stands at the time, and I have the cover. I'm fortunate enough to have gotten the cover 22 years ago. Yeah, and if you check it out, if you check it out in my gallery, it's a long ass description, but you should read it. It's all about the Holy Grail. I think you'll find it interesting, and you'll understand more about why I brought this up.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's falling in love with the piece all over again. Well, you should.
Yeah. And yet I've become completely disenfranchised and disenchanted with my collection thus far. My life is meaningless. I haven't found my Holy Grail. I don't know that I don't. Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to think about now compared to like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, if you've never even thought of it, I mean, typically you don't have one if you haven't even really thought of it that way, Yeah.
Well, I think at this point, the Grails realistically are so far outside of my price range.
Right.
The Len Wein or Jerry Conway Spider-Man cover era Spider-Man covers, right? You'd be talking probably $150,000, $200,000.
Yeah.
I don't foresee myself. I chase the Batman Hulk voraciously, but I don't know that I would have the passion to chase something like that again.
Yeah, I get you. Look what Hart says. I have my Grail, JLA number 7, and this is the modern era stuff from 20 years ago. Page 16, Blue Superman versus Angel Splash, Grant Morrison story. There you go. You know. Oh, and sorry, he follows it up with, "It's my one and only."
Well, it involves an angel, so it's appropriate.
CJ wants to know, this is for Fred. It's an inside joke, too long to get into right now. Is it in the van? When Hart was my guest, yeah, wow, the stories he told about this van with Alex Toth. Oh my God. Anyways, something, if you want to know what we're talking about, check that out. Yeah, this chat's going off the rail.
Going off the rails.
The rails, yeah. His unholy grail. Yeah, exactly. Nice one. You're being buried in the van with it. Exactly. Where does Fred? Yeah, you see, Stanley's the guy on channel who always comes in and tries to lengthen the show, even when it's hit 3 hours, which is it has just hit. So we're gonna cut it, but give a short answer if you don't, if you have an answer to that, Fred.
It's such a vague question.
Yeah, well, that's why he does that. He does it on purpose because he wants the show to keep going.
Where do I see it going? There are people who are a lot more knowledgeable than I am that would probably be able to give you a very eloquent, thought out answer. I think as long as there is printed art, physical original art, it'll always exist. I mean, that sales will always exist. That said, I don't know that younger fans are going to pursue it as much for a multitude of reasons. It seems like more and more we're getting away from physical belongings or even collecting. Right? People don't collect as much anymore. At least that's my experience.
Is that true, though?
Funko Pops has destroyed everything, so nobody's going to collect anything ever again. How's that? There's my answer. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I've talked with buddies about it over the years, but will prices drop? They may stabilize. They may drop a little bit in the immediacy, but historically they haven't.
Short-term stuff, yeah.
Right. Historically, they haven't, and I mean, you look at the history of it and the trends, and everybody for decades has said, well, the bottom's going to fall out, and it never has. So yep. I could see with my personal collection, in the next probably 10 years or so, I could see selling off quite a bit of it. But I guess my expectation is there will always be buyers for it.
Can I just add to that, only because you just mentioned the fact that you could see yourself starting to sell off in the next 10 years or so. So I've said this publicly even more than once that I spent most of my life basically, because it ties into my parents, whatever, they both passed away from cancer, whatever, got a lot of cancer in my family. So I've looked at life from a different perspective than a lot of people do, I sort of spent my entire life not thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna live to be 75 or older. No, I kind of lived sort of like thinking I got no clue. There's no way to know, but my chances of not getting to that age are heightened because of my family history, right? Mm-hmm. So I always kind of told myself throughout my collecting years, like, maybe when I hit 50, that'll be a good time for me to start thinking, okay, start selling it off and putting it all back out there, And of course, I hit 50. I'm 52 now. I haven't done that because, well, you know how it is. It's just hard to stop, right? You to right. Put an arbitrary number on it, But having said that, I do want to put out there, this I haven't mentioned before, that earlier this year, 2023, in January, I believe it was, early and mid, the first couple of weeks of January, I again started thinking, maybe 2023, maybe this is the year I should start selling off my collection. And I considered, like, it was serious consideration, because I even talked to my wife about it. I went to her and discussed it. We had a conversation about it, I ultimately, I'm still not, obviously, I'm not out there saying, if I'm selling it, so it's to sell to maybe have money to buy other things, buy more art or whatever. So I'm still collecting, But the fact that I seriously started thinking about maybe starting to sell off this year, that tells me I am absolutely closer to the end than not, you know? So yeah, interesting that you also said, you know, the next 10 years or so. So
yeah, and I've played around with the idea here and there, and even as I look at you know, where my investments are placed right now and what I could do if I liquidated this to pay off the mortgage or to, you know, whatever. It's interesting to think about.
yeah,
And certainly right now anyway, you know, I'm not going to be throwing it into the stock market necessarily, selling the stuff to, you know, we'll see. What's the market going to do? I think as long as there are people reading, there are going to be people buying original art. Do I think it'll be going for crazy money? I honestly, I don't know. I mean, who would have thought that stuff from 10 years ago would be going for what it's going now? I mean, you know, I mean,
exactly.
Liefeld on his podcast has talked about pages that have sold for, you know, minimal, you know, way back when, and now they're crazy money. So,
well, let me give you guys a really quick example. Like for me, kind of tying into what you just said. So when I first got fortunate enough to acquire my Holy Grail, the Hulk 272 cover, as we always tend to talk about, right? Somebody always asks you, you know, oh, really, your Holy Grail? Like, so you wouldn't sell it? You paid how much? I paid $1,000 for it at the time, you know?
oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, you wouldn't sell it? What if I gave you $5,000 right now? And I'm like, nope. And they didn't even think about it. Nope. And that's another way, you know, it's truly your grail when something, because in those, believe me, like early 2000s, 2001,
All right,
for something that's $1,000, for somebody to say, I'll give you $5 for it, that's massive. Like, that's massive. So for most things, I would have said, yeah, in a second, in a heartbeat. It would have been like, okay, take it, give me the money, you know? But I immediately blew it off, right? And then my friend started saying like, oh, like, so what do you think it would take? And I'm like, look, at this, again, this is 2001. I remember saying, look, somebody would have to offer like 20,000 just for me to say, oh, okay, give me a few days to at least think about this and let me process what's happening here, you know, and let's see if this is a real offer. And you know, that's the number I came up with at the time. So 20 times my cost. And at the time, believe it or not, you know, for those of us who've been around a long time, you know, have an easier time believing this. But back then, I literally said, it's easy to say that because this thing will never be worth $20,000 in my lifetime. So imagine that, Fred. Imagine that. That's how far we've come. Where in 2001, I thought that a $1,000 cover would never hit 20,000 in my lifetime. I really, truly believed that. And look how far we've come now, right? Like, it's just,
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I've got a bunch of Batman Hulk pages from that treasury that I've purchased from various auctions. There's a private collector in Canada that I snagged some from. The first one I bought about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I paid $3,000 for it. That's the Batman Hulk hug page.
oh,
okay, with the splash with the Hulk squeezing Batman. Yeah. I've got to believe, based on what I've paid for pages since, it's probably a $25,000 page at least. Yeah. I bought a more recent page that isn't nearly as good, and I paid a lot more for it. So yeah. You know, and that's a magic question, right? Where's it going? I don't think it'll ever disappear. Will it be raging? Well, it's not realistic to think that, you know, Spider-Man's going to have an audience in 100 years. I mean, we think about these characters as iconic and this hobby as like never ending, but everything ends. You know, who knows?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say, right? But the thing is like, it's hard enough to already try to predict the next generation, one generation after us, right? But now you're talking when we get into those conversations of like, oh yeah, 100 years from now, you're right. Who the hell knows, right? Because 100 years ago, there were some very popular comic strip characters and cartoons, right, in the newspaper that were popular at the time. And I guess in those days, people who loved reading it probably were thinking, oh, this is great stuff. Like, wow, this is going to be a character that's going to last the test of time, right? Never imagining that 100 years later, like today, nobody knows who these people are or who these characters are, or never even heard of the strip, right?
Well, top Hollywood actors from 60 years ago, there are many people that don't know who they are now.
Right.
I use the example, there's a silent film actor, his name was Harold Lloyd. And when I was a kid, I used to watch the shorts on the weekends. They had the black and white silent film shorts. And he was hysterical. And he was right up there with Charlie Chaplin. Nobody knows who he is now. So again, where does the market going? Are we talking 5 years? Are we talking 10 years? Are we talking 30 years?
Exactly. Exactly. And Marcus, you make a great point. That's exactly right. And that's why I say, when I tell people, I always warn them to not take it the wrong way, the way that it might sound at first. But I've always said, from the day I acquired that piece, I said, oh my God, this is fantastic. But the bad thing is I love to collect, right? The act of collecting and the hunt and accumulating. So I could have quit because I've got the one. And having the one means it's all downhill from here. Right. And people think that they hear that and they say, what? You're saying bad things about everything else you bought after that was crap. No, I didn't say that. Right. But if that's the one that like I would want more than anything, then it's reasonable to understand every single piece that has come since then is a step down, at least a step down. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I've got the best pages from that treasury issue, but it doesn't mean I'm going to be avoiding more pages from that issue.
Right. Yeah, but like Hart says, but quitting ain't having fun anymore. Exactly. And the hunt for the pages of fun. Absolutely. Yeah. I learned that when I sold my Hulk art collection in 2004-ish and a little bit into 2005. That's how I learned a little bit about myself as a person, as a collector. I learned that, I stopped collecting Hulk art. Part of it was for financial reasons, but also I realized, you know what? When I quit collecting something, I have a tendency to dispose of it after, which is what kind of, I learned that, that means for me, at least, a lot of the fun comes in the searching, the hunting and accumulating. You know what I mean? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I didn't realize that up until then. Because I was like, people were asking, why would you sell it? Okay, it's okay. You're going to stop collecting Hulk art, but you had so many amazing splashes and covers, and why get rid of it? And then whatever. I don't know, but I felt like okay, it came to an end. I'm not going to collect any more of it. Might as well put it out there and let other people enjoy it, and I'll use that money and start buying the next type of art I'm going to collect. You know what I mean? And that's just how it worked out for me. And yeah, so a lot of it is absolutely the hunt. Oh yeah, and he says, I sell everything and keep the grail, but if you quit, you could be the grumpy guy making fun of prices going up and then have fun making fun of people paying top dollar for new stuff. But I can still do that now. Even without stopping, right?
Or we can be the guys that complain about the prices that are beyond what we can afford, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one Marvel fan. I hunt for items every day, probably 10 times a day or more. It's nonstop. It can actually get weird, I guess. But when you do, find something you really want, it's awesome. And have to buy. Yeah, that exactly. We all believe it. We all understand that pull of the collecting, the desire to get the next thing. Absolutely.
I have gotten more discerning about what I pick up now, simply out of necessity, because the collection's grown so much, and I have, I look at stuff that I bought 10 years ago and it's in my collection, but, or taste change or themes change and what have you. And, so there is, I'm a little more hesitant to pull the trigger. Paul Pelletier is one of my favorite artists.
Yeah.
I rarely buy new pages because I've got a portfolio full of his work.
Right.
How much is enough, right?
Unlike right, but see, that's my issue is people tell me like, how much more Mike Perkins or Tom Grummett art do you need? Like, and on one
Never
side,
about need.
well, like part of me says it's true. It's not like I'm unaware, and I don't need people to remind me of that. I kind of think of it myself sometimes, right? But at the same time, the other part of my brain reminds me, but no matter how much you have, every time you get another piece, you really love it. You still, like, the thrill never goes away, and you really enjoy both of those guys' art.
Yeah.
So I think, why should I stop buying? If it's making me happy, right? It continues to make me happy. Why not keep accumulating?
I have plugged back into being more conscientious of going down and looking through them more regularly.
Okay, good.
I think that's important, because for a while I was realizing I was doing it once every 8 months, once a year.
Right. Not enough. You're not getting any value out of your art that way. That's exactly.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. I've harped on that on this show many times. That to remind people, like, we all get lost in the whole aspect of looking for that next piece, and we all fall into the trap of, oh, we got the new package, let's open it up. Oh yeah, you spend a few minutes looking, and then whoop, put it in the portfolio, and that's it. You get back online and you start looking for the next piece,
Right.
And we got to stop doing that as much. Or it's okay if you continue to jump online and look for that next piece, but we also have to keep reminding ourselves, man, you know what? Like, this shit's not cheap. Let's get more enjoyment out of it than just the first 2 minutes after you open the package it came in, right?
Well, yeah. I had somebody reach out to me a couple of weeks ago, inquiring about a couple of pieces in my for sale section of my personal gallery. And I found myself responding to him, apologizing and saying, I really haven't kept up with it, thinking I haven't looked at comps lately. Am I still in the place to sell this McCone Spider-Man page or whatever? Yeah. And ask them to kind of be patient with me and to kind of reach out again in the near future, because I don't know that I want to get rid of it right now.
Yeah.
No, so even it's part of that collector mentality, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How much more do you need, Murdoch?
All of it, man. All of it.
All of it. As long as and we have that innate burning desire within us to always look for more. And it's again, the act of collecting is so much fun, and it has brought all of us here today so much fun and so much joy to our lives, right? And so only collectors can understand other collectors,
right.
Which is why so many non-collectors, they just don't get it, and it's so hard to explain it to them. They don't get it, because that innate desire has never been within them. So how do you explain it?
And for me, I'm certainly aware of value and aware of potential investment, the possibility of flipping, but I've never fully been able to wrap my head around people, whether it's comics or original comic art, who do it as private collectors simply for investment or flipping or whatever. I understand it and I get it, but it doesn't resonate with me, because that's never a primary focus for me when I'm pursuing a piece.
Makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, absolutely. Caesar, you're still around. You're still with us, my friend. I still collect. Don't buy as much. I'm more selective on what I do buy. Yeah, you're not buying as much anymore, but you got a really fab collection anyways, though. So that's the nice thing, right? When you've been around a long time, you've been collecting for a long time, Caesar, you've accumulated a lot of great fun stuff along the way. And when you find that you're not buying as much anymore, or even if you're doing it on purpose, maybe because of the prices or whatever reason, when you get to that point when you're not buying as much, certainly at that point is when you should kind of remind yourself, you know what? I'm not getting many pieces coming in anyways. Let me go and pull out portfolios and let's spend some time looking at the shit I've already got and spend good money on, right? And
or rereading books we have, right?
Or rereading books, exactly. Because even I still have, like, I always talk about the pile of trades that I haven't, it'll take me forever to get around to, but I also have a pile of books that I've had for years that one day I still need to kind of get around to reading, So man, collecting art is yes, collecting in general, I feel, is an addiction. Grail pieces are the crack cocaine of the addiction. Yes, Comic Art Channel. What's up, Jason? Last week's guest. The sickest hobby. Well, I don't know if it's a sick as hobby, but it's a good.
Crack cocaine would be a sicker hobby.
Which one?
Crack cocaine.
Crack cocaine. Yeah. Exactly. By the way, Jason, I'm 7 episodes into Neon Genesis Evangelion. 7 episodes in, my friend. Don't have time to really tell you what I think so far. I can say it feels like not much happens for given that it's 7 episodes. That's my overarching feeling. Not much happens, but somehow I'm still going through them. So it looks like I will be watching the entire thing, and I will let you know once it's all done what I felt. Can't get enough Secret Wars Art. Yeah, and that shit from last week. So those pages with the wasp, man, 8-9 grand. I just saw those actually a couple of days ago. I was like, wow, yeah, that stuff's going super strong. Nostalgia costs money. Let's put it that way. Funny when one collector doesn't understand another collector's hobby. Yeah, we all have a compulsive personality. That's part of it for sure, Hart. The itch for new art never goes away. Very true. I remember when a Beanie Baby collector gave me heck for my comic book. Oh God, I don't even. Yeah, let's not even go there. Hopefully you gave him or her a piece of your mind. No one puts my Care Bears in the corner. Set a record time, please. I think we might already. I think the record was 3:20. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. But don't get too excited. Let's wait until I'm done watching the entire thing, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, and then the last one, Marvel fan. My wife collects Funko Pops, has probably 3,000 of them, but so many she has, it is worth hundreds each and paid $10. It's also a thrill for her having them be worth a lot. Of course it is. It always is. That's always a thrill. No matter how much people want to say that, we got to stop thinking about the value. It's hard to not think of the value, right? It costs so much and it becomes worth so much. It's real money. It's not pretend money, Are we buying art or our youth?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. I'm saying both, but that's why it goes with yes. That's exactly. Yep. Absolutely. All right, guys. But in all seriousness, we gotta cut it because it has been 3 hours 22 minutes right now, as of this moment. So one of the longest shows ever, probably the second longest show. Yep, second longest, I believe. But hey, like I said, like I always say, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, all night long, all show long. Even at a certain point, a few viewers dropped off, maybe 5 or 6, and then I regained them, plus an extra couple, and I'm literally right now, I think within 1 or 2 of my high. So that tells me, that's the data that tells me we're all doing something great. Like, we all love what we do here. We all come together and have a great time and just hang out and have fun together as a group. Otherwise, the numbers would drop off a cliff. And after 3 hours, 22 minutes, especially for you, like you East Coasters that have to work tomorrow, and you West Coasters who, because it starts at 5 o'clock for you, and you're essentially watching this and having to go through the proper supper time. So I don't know if you're skipping supper until the show ends or if you're eating while you watch, whatever. But I really appreciate it. It means so much to me. So yeah, Easter dinner be damned. But yeah, that's exactly it. It's that's why I do it. I see people still hanging out, barely any drop off. If anything, it's gone up a little bit. 3 hours and 20 minutes plus into the conversation. That's why we keep going, because it's just so much fun. And I really appreciate you guys for making the show what it is. As I always say, not only my guests, to you, Fred, obviously, thanks again. Really, really appreciate you doing this tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. No, my pleasure. Believe me. And the rest of you, especially you regulars who come in, you really do make it what it is. Without you guys, it would just be another kind of interview style show, which I have no interest in. I just want it to be like what it is. It's a hangout for all of us. Yeah, and I think it's really a lot of fun. And like I always say, it feels like the time the shows do go long, but speaking for myself, they feel like they always go really, really fast. It doesn't feel like it drags at all. So thank you all. Let me put a few of your good nights and your thank you so much to you.
Can I say that this is my Holy Grail show?
What do you mean?
This is like the top show, man.
Well, I thank you, of course. And yes, you may say that. Go ahead and say it some more, please.
It's been a good time. Thanks everybody for the comments and the questions, the interactions. It's been really engaging. I suspect I'll be in the comment section in the future.
Well, you have been already, so I'm always love to have everybody I know pop into the comments whenever they can. Like I said, I know time is precious, and so I don't feel and harbor any ill will against anybody who only comes in once a blue moon or whatever. Whenever they can, you can, and I'm super happy about that. So thank you again, everybody. By the way, everybody, hey, really quick, since most of you again are still here. Even though we're signing off, just want to let you know that next Sunday night, I will be doing a show and tell with my friend, Michael Reyes. And you guys may be wondering, who the hell is Michael Reyes? And to that, I have to say, a lot of you regulars, whether it's from regulars in my chats or on Comic Art Live chats, a lot of you actually know who Michael Reyes is. The thing is that you would know him better as the one and only and mysterious Maki Poo Poo. And as you see there, he's with little Maki Poo Poo. A really, really cute picture. I'm not sure if little Maki Poo Poo will actually make an appearance on the show. Michael is a super nice guy. And he has admitted to me that he's on the shyer side, so was on some level reluctant to agree to do the show, which is why I'm even all the more grateful to Michael for agreeing to do it. So he'll be here next week. It'll be a full show and tell. But as always, we'll bring all you guys into it and converse. It's just that most of the conversation will be conversing about the artwork. But I'm sure we will go off on tangents as we always do anyways. Eternals, what's up? I didn't even know you were in the crowd. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it, man. Stanley, you must be so happy at the length of the tonight's show. Great show. Good luck with the weather. Thank you. It's good now. It's good. I think the heat should finally start coming in. We might do a Holy Grail show. We should do something like that. That's something. It's a good idea. Something to think about. The show of throws. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you, my friend. Carlos Mo comes in at the last second. Hello, what did I miss? You little bastard.
We just started. Got a late start.
Carlos Mo, you got to come on with me sometime, man. So this way I know you'll be here for the duration and not just 5 minutes or 2 minutes before the end, Be there, be square. Exactly, Maki Poo Poo. Appreciate it. I look forward to it. Good night to you, Nick. Really appreciate it. Don't forget, everybody, before my show next week, check out the EXP Nick Barucci show on Friday, 7 p.m. And check out what the Spidey, Ramita Jr., Scott Hanna pages are going to be broken up and selling for. So thank you very much. I appreciate you, Eternals. Thank you again. Great show. Back to work tomorrow. Sorry, guys, for those of you who got to go back to work. But thank you for tuning in. Regardless, really appreciate you. And again, catch me next week with Michael Reyes, Maki Poo Poo, the one and only, and should be a lot of fun. So that's it. Anything else you want to say, Fred? Don't forget, everybody, check out Fred's links. Go to his gallery. Check out not only the kick-ass collection he has, but I'm telling you, if you really end up looking at and liking that the Barrows Siqueira piece there, the double spread I showed. I think you might get tempted to want to own some Barrows art. So if that's the case, check out the second link that goes to his all for sale art. There's a ton of really affordable and beautiful art. So check it out. Anything else you want to say, Fred, to anybody?
No, great talking to you. I've enjoyed it, and I look forward to getting to know you more over the next few years.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Likewise. Don't hang up. Give me a minute, will you?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thanks, everybody. Thanks again. And record-setting show. You must be really happy, Stanley. You got your all-time wish came true. Good night, Rick. Thanks, as always, to you. Appreciate you guys, man. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's it. Thanks again, everybody. And we will see you next week. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks.